Hello and welcome to Racer TV for round 10 of GNCC racing from beautiful Unadilla Raceway in New Berlin, New York. A lot on the line today in all of our classes. XC1 title possibly decided today. XC2 going to be a race to the end, no doubt about it. Under beautiful blue skies and cotton white clouds, we're going to have epic racing as never seen before here from Unadilla Raceway.
Very much, Chuckle Masters. We are now down here on the starting line of this world-famous home of horsepower. They call it Unadilla, my friends, and it's the Parts Unlimited Unadilla GNCC. Rodney Tomlin down here on the starting line now as we get set to roll into another day of history. As this morning already we've seen the history books being rewritten as 825 riders took off the starting line at 10 o'clock this morning. Another 200 this morning of youth riders and 314 riders this afternoon for this Unadilla GNCC. We also have 17 of the world's top pro motorcycle racers lined up across the front row here in the soils of beautiful and lovely Unadilla, just up the road from New Berlin, New York, and one of the longest and oldest standing traditions in motocross racing that we know. Since the late 1960s, we've seen some of the greatest things here, and now with over a decade of GNCC racing here, we have scribed our own pages in the annals of history of the Unadilla Valley Sports Center. And of course, as the machines find themselves to the quiet moment here, it is time to introduce to you our starting lineup for today's XC1 Pro class. Fresh from Slovakia, from the team effort from Boonville, North Carolina, on a factory FMF KTM, your two-time defending GNCC champion, Caleb Russell. Rolling to the line today, second in points, aboard the number 314, another member of the ISDE team on an Infab Am Pro Yamaha, Grant Baylor. Rolling to the line today, third in points. He rides aboard the number 989 from Williamstown, West Virginia. He has made his own pages of history here at Unadilla Valley Sports Center. Today, he rides aboard the Rocky Mountain Amsoil KR4 Arrive and Ride Husqvarna, Bad Thad Duval. Rolling to the line today, fourth in points. He rides aboard the number 9 from Crown Point, Indiana, on a JCR Honda, Chris Bach. Next, he rolls to the line today, fifth in points, aboard the number 264. Fresh from Slovakia and an ISDE overall win. The first American to ever be able to pull this feat off. From Vine Grove, Kentucky, on the Rockstar Air Group backed Husqvarna, Ryan Sives. Rolling to the line next, he is sixth in points, riding aboard the number 2, a former GNCC champion from Australia, on a Rockstar Energy Husqvarna, Josh Strang. Rolling to the line today, seventh in points. He is aboard the number 3 from Cookeville, Tennessee, on an Infab Am Pro Yamaha, Jordan Ashburn. Rolling to the line today, ninth in points. He is aboard the number 6 machine. He hails from Birdsboro, Pennsylvania, on a Rockstar Energy Husqvarna factory racing machine, Andrew DeLong. Rolling to the line today, 10th in points. He rides aboard the number 12, a former Japanese cross-country champion on an HR Motorsports Motivations Racing Great Western Moto-backed Honda, Takeshi Koikeda. Rolling to the line next today, aboard the number 121 from Logan, Ohio, on a factory beta. Welcome back to the front row, Corey Buttrick. Rolling to the line today, aboard the number 331. And of course, he hails from Australia himself, fresh off a second place overall finish at the ISDE on the Infab and Pro Yamaha, Daniel Milner. Rolling to the line next today, he rides aboard the number 25. He hails from Morrison, Illinois on a Fun Mart Cycle Fly Ride PG.com KTM, Adam Bonor. Rolling to the line next today, aboard the number 438, visiting from Spain on a MotoXPlanet.com Beta Miami Truba Back Beta, Oriol Mina. Riding aboard the number 472, rolling Grand Beaton, Connecticut on an RS Enterprise Sports REP Yamaha, Corey Rydell. Rolling to the line next, aboard the number 20 from Cincinnati, Ohio, on a Maxxis KTM flyback machine, Chris Douglas. And last, and certainly not least, from Canada, on board the factory Husqvarna, the number 903, Tyler Medaglia. And that, ladies and gentlemen, your starting lineup for our XC1 Pro class here for this Parts Unlimited Unadilla GNCC as the machines fire back up now. We are only a couple of minutes away from seeing the green flag fly and GNCC racing get underway here in the great state of New York for the second time here this year, and for the 11th running of the Unadilla GNCC. Again, another record-setting day of GNCC racing as far as the numbers are concerned. Last night, rain showers moved through the area, dampening a very dusty, which may have warranted the best conditions we've seen in quite some time. We are also looking at beautiful clear blue skies here overhead today. And of course, as we look down on the starting line, we've got riders from all parts of the globe, all corners of the globe. Of course, here in the United States, Australia, we've got them from Japan, we've got them from Spain, we've got them from Canada, and we've got visitors from all over the world on RacerTV.com as well. And as Ricky Towery makes his way out, 1 minute, folks, 1 minute before the start of this Parts Unlimited Unadilla GNCC. And now the hearts are beginning to pound now as the eyes begin to widen in anticipation of what the next few moments are going to bring for this over 300 riders. Nearly 2,000 entries throughout the course of this weekend. Another record-breaking weekend in the GNCC Racing Nation as all eyes turn and focus toward turn number 1, where Ricky Tower watches his watch and he tells the riders now, shut them down, shut them down, shut them down. We are now less than 30 seconds away from getting underway with today's main event. And I got to ask you, New York race fans, are you ready to go GNCC Racing? Well, that's pretty impressive, there's no doubt, but I know this is New York, and I know this is Wainoa country, and I'm going to ask you one more time. Are you ready to go Unadilla GNCC Racing? 10 seconds. Row number 1, XC1 Pro will be off and rolling at this Parts Unlimited Unadilla GNCC. $250 up for grabs here today, my friends. They round the first turn, and it's Josh Strang on the Rockstar-backed Husqvarna. He's in that number 1 spot. Look back there in the number 2 position, the number 20, Chris Douglas. We got C2 Pro Lights class now, 24 riders, including Nick Davis, Jason Thomas, Craig DeLong, Jesse Grome, Sam Evans, Mike McGinnis, Trevor Bollinger, Austin Lee, Ricky Russell, Scotty Grills, Philip Cheney, also Mike Witkowski, Brendan Riordan, Lafferty, James Steiner, Alex Benhart, Benjamin Kelly, Alexander Digowitz, also Dylan McRitchie, Tegan Temple, Francis Humwa, Josh Toth, Colin May, and Ryan Francis ready to roll in 10 seconds for row number 2, the XC2 Pro Lights. Another $100 hole shot up for grabs here today. Around the first turn, and whoa! I'm not sure if it was the 18 or the 24. It was either Craig DeLong or Sam Evans. Maybe neither one of those guys. We'll get the official word in a few moments. Senior A class coming up next, the 40-plus, Sean Remington. All righty, Senior A 40-plus class coming up next. It's the Remington Tussle, Tochilla, along with Grover, Morin, Bill Atkinson, Mark Davis, and more in 10 seconds. Grover, Charles Morin, Bill Atkinson, Mark Davis, Robert Green, Enrico Bartacali, also Charles Hathaway, Billy Schlag, David Fitch, Carl LeBlanc. The 116 grabbing the hole shot there, and we got Rob Brown as well as Wayne Greenwick, Jeff Hart, Paul Linterendy, also Kevin Shearer, Stephen Ackley, Peter Gordon, Paul Petrin, Mark Rickard, and Todd Eli. As we're less than 30 to go for the Vet A 30-plus class. Joe Morris, Joe Kessler, Big Jim Steiner, Nicholas Cardona, Eddie Lochak Jr., Alex Manico, Daniel Conway, Gustavo Hidalgo, Jesse Arsenal, also Matthew Connett, Jeffrey Elliott. 10 seconds. Anthony Howe, Fabian Barada, Brandon Duval, Craig Volcomer, Andrew Millier, and Nathan Alring. And it's going to be the 3.60 of Alex Amanico out of Danbury, Connecticut on his KTM, grabbing the early lead in this one as we go to the 200A class next. Riders include Zachary Ferentz, John Hugel, Carter Conkins, and Peter Walk ready to roll in 10 seconds. Position jockeying, going haywire through the first turn. Now here to turn 2. 4:36, grabbing the early lead. Andrew Gross out of Hancock, New York on a WER Dunlop Tires Science Back machine. We got the 250A class coming up next. 51 riders in this one. Mason Atherton, Evan Earl, Colin Keegan, Chris Vendetti, Alar Kermy, also Kyle Higgins, Michael Cook, Will Mason. 10 seconds. Hunter Bush, Tom Dexter, Mike Bauer, Vance Francis, Dustin Simpson, DJ Falconio, also Vincent Papala, Anthony Crop, Zachary Nardi. Go out, who's grabbing the early lead of 51 riders in a massive tangle up in turn 1. It's the 5-5. And that is going to be Anthony Stone grabbing the early lead here today. Anthony Stone out of Reedsville, West Virginia on the Morgantown Power Sports Max. It's a Moose Racing back machine. 4-stroke A lights, Braxton McGee, Josh Lee, Chris McCann, Troy Turnberg, Hunter Shelton, Tyler Braniff, Mike Jacob Albright, Loic Leonard, Jeremy Dodlin, Tristan Landerblom, Papu, also Jake Broman and Mike Hartenveld ready to roll in 10 seconds. .862, Jake Froman out of Linville, Indiana. New ride on the Ober Suzuki USA Fly Racing back machine, but he comes up a little short in the 100 of Josh Lee on the Dad America MSR back Kawasaki out of Statesboro, Georgia, taking over the early lead. Open A class coming up next. 48 riders: Zach Hayes, Luke Parsons, Nathan Thornhill, Daniel Soldobnik, Tom Vigilante, also Dalton Cross, Ben Parsons, Zach Tussle, Seth Eberhardt, Don Anello, Levi Stroop, Giuliano Rolando, Grant Marriott, Josh Lewis, Mark Cornell, 10 seconds. Zachary McCutcheon, Diago Rosas, Brian Day, Andrew Bristol, Jason Langerback, Zachary Lupo, Dylan Dash, Ty Kipp, Anthony Thomas, Harley Willer, Luke Strach, also Adam Hartnagel, Trevor Cobb, Nick Cordana, Robert Smith, and more. And it's going to be the 59 machine of Nathan Thornhill out of Peck's Mill, West Virginia, on the AOMC MX Fly Racing FMF Racing Back KTM Appalachian Off-Road, helping that guy right there. I know he sends a big shout out and thanks to him for that as we go now from the Open A class down to our Junior AB 25 plus class. Joseph McCarty, Tom Lane, Chris Crispin, William Bryan, Brandon Peterson, Aaron Coxon, Adam Clark, Eric Grassi, Jake Dennis, and AJ Confronti. 10 seconds. And they're off. That's AJ Conforti. Conforti and the rest of the crew rounding the first turn, and it's going to be the 407 of Chris Crispin out of Plymouth, Massachusetts, taking the early lead. Open B class coming up next. Argo Kermy, Roman Phillips. Also, we got Neil Kraus, Bill Zavindi, Dylan Richella, Damon Morin, Jeremy Pascal, Scott Moore, Ted Chesbro. 10 seconds. Juan Bellaron, Matt Storage, Ryan McManus, Luke Weaver, Ryan Madison, Jason Hafner, Paint On. .519, Ryan McManus out of Nelsonville, Ohio, on the JD Performance Sports Cycle Strivers Pharmacy Bag Machine. McManus, a fast guy, and I tell you, those folks backing him up down at JD Performance and Sports Cycles got to be real proud. So down at Strivers Pharmacy in the Athens, Nelsonville area. Senior B 40 plus class: Scott Campbell, Jim Seaman, Lehman Zebo, Jeffrey Phillips, Jeff Bacon, Christopher Cross, Mike Beckett, Don Mosier, Jeremy Parsons, Gene Squidwa, Aaron Gibson. 10 seconds. Jeff Mayhew, Leon Whitaker, Kevin Castellaneta, also Will Gribben and Mike Kochman. And it's a Kawasaki pilot. And I believe that's Jeremy Parsons. Parsons on the Kawasaki out of Vestal, New York. The 40-year-old young gun in that 40 plus class. 4-stroke B lights class coming up next. Adam Hollenkamp, Trey Jefferson, Ben Murdoch, Mike Tetlow, Adam Lewis, Drew Bolton, Austin Evans, Jeremy Wolf, and Tyler Murray are ready to roll on Ricky Towery's cue. First turn clear, and Ricky looks down the long, starts shooting down, tells these riders, you've got 10 seconds. Four-stroke B lights off and rolling as the green flag is up. And it's the 405 of Michael Tetlow from Lebanon Junction, Kentucky, getting a great jump off the line, but look out. Here comes the other Kawasaki pilot. It's the 517 Drew Bolton out of Mooresville, North Carolina, trying to mount the challenge. 250B class coming up next with Mike Miller, Will Hart, Cole Madison, Judd Lott, Ty McBurney, also Randy Roberts, Mario Petrillo, Matthew Federico, Justin Murphy, Caleb Robert, Joe Brown, Gregory Coffey, Dylan DeLisi, Jordan Arbit-Banny, Evan Giannetta. 10 seconds. Brian Clementowski, Ryan Winston, Tim Steiner, Coleman Brinson, Jake Anderson, Brett Merritt, Cody Buck, Colin Bondercheck, Cope Becker, Nick Lavasco, Dylan Schreemaker, Brewer Cawley, Cameron Mitchell, Scott, Jack Vining, Caleb Stone, and Aaron Lehman. By the way, just want to let you know we've got from out of Van Etten, New York, a family of riders racing here today, and I'll tell you about it in a moment, but there's a father, 2 sons, and a daughter all racing here this afternoon. Cameron Sisk, Bolton B. Robb, Ethan Stiles, Adam Parker, R.J. Mergel, Ian Howes, Parker Jones, Jonathan Bidlack, Jordan Purvis, Zach Church, Theo Lepley, Tyler Rocheleau, Adam Gordon, Francis Filtemere, Noah Kohler, Kyle Ackley, Brock Post, Caleb Williams, Colton Cup, and Elisa Davis, and Kane Kwapiski.
10 seconds.
And they're off. 200B, 21 riders into the first turn. I believe it's Ian House out of Sydney Center, New York on the 420. Maybe going to grab that early lead in his 200B class. Got his hands full regardless of who ends up front. It's not going to be an easy task here today in this class. That B 30+ class, our final row of riders to take off here, including Larry Hopper, Sean Morris, Matt Janovic, Oliver Rondo, Joseph Taylor, Dan Nyanko, Tim Arndis, Gabriel Ramirez, Connor Breeze, Chris Larkin, Scott Pierre, Allison Ribeiro, Michael DeSimone, Daniel Bernier, Peter Ackley, Michael Williams, Chad Murdoch, Chris Levin, Jeremy Dexter, and Scott Dallas. They're off and rolling now. Whoa! And it's going to be, oh, who is it going to be? 919, Scott Dallin. After all that, I think there were like 3 or 4 different guys that were up at the front of that pack at one point, but Scott Dallin out of Waynesburg, Pennsylvania, heads in and out of turn number 2 with the control of the situation and heading out onto the trail. Some 300, actually I said 14 earlier, 340 riders out here this afternoon, and they're all taken to the track after 825 earlier this morning and another 200. So we've got 1,100 and some riders on the racetrack here today throughout the course of the day. 340 of them right now. And RacerTV.com's coverage here of GNCC Live continues after this. Hey folks, don't forget, stay off your pit bikes and stay off the racetrack.
Any engine, any season, at home, at the track, or on the trail. AMSOIL for any engine.
I'm a sore loser.
I'm a sore loser.
Losing is not an option for me.
Be the best.
The best?
The best.
You have to have the best equipment under the hood.
That's why
I only use
Cometic products in my engines.
Cometic gasket.
Cometic gasket. Cometic gasket.
Cometic gasket, a superior quality gasket
For those of us who demand the highest level of performance.
This Racer TV live broadcast is brought to you by AMSOIL, the first in synthetics. By Rocky Mountain ATV MC, get ready. By Maxxis Tires, find your flow. And powered by Yamaha Generators.
check. Cooper, are we good? All right. All right, well, welcome to Racer TV's coverage of the Unadilla 2015 GNC National. I'm here joined by Johnny Gallagher. Johnny, I tell you, record numbers here again, as we expected in New York.
Yeah, you know, coming into this event, we always expect there's going to be a huge crowd, and this year certainly didn't disappoint. Things have already heating up quickly here. We had a wild one on the start. Caleb Russell on the ground immediately right off the start. Not what we were hoping to see, or anyone was really hoping to see. Caleb here today trying to wrap up his championship. But like you said, Megawatt, an incredible turnout here today, a great racetrack. Being out there yesterday, it was a little bit dry, a little bit dusty. We got some rain last night, made the conditions absolutely prime for today. Now, I will say, it is incredibly slick out there. The rock and the cobblestone that makes up this Unadilla Valley Sports Center really can jump up and bite these guys. And, you know, I didn't actually see Caleb's incident in the first turn or wherever it was, but I would imagine it was a condition of those slick conditions jumping up, taking away the traction. So we've got a great track. We've got a lot of riders, a lot of exciting storylines to follow here today. Can Caleb Russell wrap up a championship? Can Chris Bach back up his earlier win in New York with a second? Obviously, we've got the Sky Shot, which I didn't get to see it, but from what I'm hearing, they've actually jumped it already today, despite the fact that Racer Productions, the GNCC crew, put some hay bales in to make it a little bit more difficult, but that wasn't actually their intention. Their intention was to stop people from jumping it, just to keep things safe. Obviously, this is a cross-country race. These guys aren't necessarily motocrossers, but these guys, and I would imagine Bad Dad and Josh Strang and, you know, possibly Caleb and all those guys, they took one look at that thing and said, hey, we're shooting that thing first lap.
Yeah, you know what, but it's going to take a reprieve lap on that. Those guys all have motocross tracks at home. They ride on a motocross track on a regular basis, and like you said, on the first lap, they're going to send it.
Yeah, you know, and in defense of my four-wheeled brethren yesterday, we looked at it, we've jumped it in the past, but with the way they had it set up with the chicane before it, there just wasn't enough room for us to get enough run to get over it. I had heard a couple guys kind of hit it as hard as they could and didn't get anywhere near getting it over it. Our power-to-weight ratio isn't quite what these guys are, but again, if you're watching at home, that's a little bit of exciting mix here thrown in. I'm sure we're going to get to see some pretty sick pancake whips and a little bit of style there, and it's fun for these guys, and it's a good respite for them. Obviously, we see here as we're watching on screen, we've got some dark, muddy, nasty woods with roots everywhere, ruts. As we mentioned, incredible turnout, over 800 riders in this morning's 10 a.m. race. Phenomenal turnout. You know, the New York fans, the New York racers, they really know how to bring it, and they did not disappoint here today at Unadilla.
And let me tell you, Johnny, it was amazing to watch our amateur race, our 10 o'clock race. At the end of the second lap, Johnny, we had 7 different classes represented in the top 20. Now, what that tells me, these guys that started on rows 5, 6, 7, they were able to pass bunches of riders. They were passing 10 and 12 guys on a hillside. They were passing 10, 15 guys stuck in a hole, that type of thing. And by the end of the second lap, everybody from Sportsman A, we had a 125 BC guy leading this morning. So that tells you about the amount of participants and the conditions on the track today. And when you mention slick, you're not just talking about a muddy, deep slick, Johnny. What you're talking about is you're talking about exposed tree bark, you're talking about wet rock, you're talking about yellow root in there, and all of that fits here at Unadilla. So when you talk about slick, it doesn't have to be wet or muddy to be slick in there necessarily.
No, absolutely. And for those that have never been here to this facility and aren't here today, you know, if you've ever watched obviously this place has been famous for decades upon decades for outdoor national motocross. And if you watch the guys when they race here at the outdoor national, they'll run handguards and they'll run chest protectors or at least roost guards. And this is one of the few places on the circuit that they do that, and here's why. The dirt here is beautiful, but the problem is it's mixed with gravel, it's mixed with softball-sized rocks, all the way up to basketball-sized rocks, and they're everywhere. It's not like they can pick them out. They're in there, and it's part of the terrain here. And here we see the Sky Shot on the first lap. Looks like Josh Strang is the man on a mission, and right over it, first lap, no troubles, with style. And is that Ryan Sipes there in second? No, that looks like it might be Thad, who was in second there. Actually, I think our producer, yep, that's Thad in third. It looked like Sipes in second, and then Tyler Medaglia in 4th. So that's the top 4 riders. Looks like possibly Chris Bach stretching it out there. Andrew DeLong sending it on the first lap. So the top 6 for sure, right over that thing. No troubles. Didn't even think about it. Those guys got a straight shot through those hay bales and just wicked it and sent it.
A little preload, a little seat bounce, and there we go, man. Up and over it. That's a good 3rd gear wide open for those guys.
Yep, and one rider that we did mention had some issues off the start was Caleb Russell, and there you see Caleb kind of scrubbing his way past, looks like possibly Chris Douglas. He was passing there, looked like for 7th place. There we see the Ampro boys, Baylor and Milner, it looks like, or Ashburn, can't really tell for sure, directly behind Caleb. Now, Caleb needs to beat Grant Baylor to win this championship today. So right now he's doing that as we see him step his way through that section. You know, Megawatt, there's been a lot of questions about Caleb coming into this race, and, you know, obviously he was over there, he was putting in a masterful performance at ISDE, leading the overall, or he and Sipes were very close. I don't know exactly who was leading at the moment he got injured, but Ryan Sipes ends up coming through with the overall at the ISD, first American ever to do so. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but Caleb had, you know, a knee issue and as well as completely totaling his bike from the pictures we all saw on social media. Everybody questioning, is he going to be here? Is he going to race? And can he do enough to wrap up this championship? And Megawatt, as we watch these guys working their way into VP Fuels Pro Row, you know, it really did add a lot of excitement in a strange way coming into this event.
No question, John. It's all part of racing. And when Caleb, you know, Caleb's running 2 series. He's running some enduro races. He's running this race. He was over there. He gets this injury. He wads the bike in half, okay? Now, do you roll the dice with the point lead that you have? Do you sit this week out and rest on the laurels a little bit and take the comfort in the points and not risk further injury? But no, not in Caleb's DNA. Not going to happen. And I'm sure he got that advice from more than one person in his camp. And he's here to get it done today. He said, I can clinch at New York.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and if you're in Caleb's shoes, I can't blame him for doing what he's doing. He's a smart guy. He's a great rider. He knows what he's capable of. He's going to let his body do the talking today. If his body can go, he's going to do what he needs to do to wrap up this championship. And if he can't, he'll do the smart thing and save himself. Josh Strang coming through with the lead in lap 1. And it looks like Thad Duvall there in second. That was Ryan Sipes in 2nd, Thad Duvall 3rd, Tyler Medaglia 4th, Chris Bach 5th. Now here we see Andrew DeLong with a strong ride here in the first lap in 6th place in what is a bit of a home race for him. He's from nearby Pennsylvania. He likes these conditions. So, and these guys have put a little bit of gap on everybody else. Next, I think we're going to be looking for Caleb Russell and possibly Grant Baylor, who he was with when we last saw him there at the Sky Shot a few miles ago.
You know, Johnny, you talk about the gap these guys have right now. They've obviously separated themselves. They are the lead group. Now, today, with the amount of people we have in the track conditions, you listen to Casey Martinez. Today, she gets a hole shot. She takes off, and her timing was just right on laps 2 and 3. No hiccups, no log jams, no...
There we see, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. That was Caleb Russell checking in the 6th place position, I believe that is, after 1 lap complete. So he is ahead of Grant Baylor, who's working his way through there now. Looks like we've got Jordan Ashburn now crossing the finish line at the end of lap 1. Oh, here's Grant Baylor there. There's Chris Douglas and Takeshi Koiketa, all those guys finishing up this lap here.
So when we look at the math, Johnny, is somewhere around 8th and be ahead of Baylor is where Caleb has to finish today?
Yes, I believe he needs to finish ahead of Grant Baylor, which he is currently doing right now, as we mentioned. I'm sorry, he is actually... We're showing Andrew DeLong in the 5th place spot and Chris Bach in 6th. That's different from what we saw on our screen. Right. But nonetheless, I did forget about DeLong there. So Caleb Russell in 7th. Then that was actually Corey Buttrick in 8th behind him. Corey Buttrick, there's a shakeup, has decided to give it a go in XC1 Pro. This week brought us 450 instead of his 252 stroke. He's been campaigning the series in the XC2 class. And actually looking through the results last night, he's one of the very few riders who's finished in the top 20 overall every race to this point. So he's been incredibly consistent, and I guess just a little bit of a change of pace for him to see exactly how he might stack up if he chooses to step into that XC1 fray for next year.
And Johnny, you've seen it many times. It doesn't really make sense. It's a timer. We're not sure why somebody did some, but change bike sizes, change classes, and immediately jump in and be competitive.
Yeah, and he's doing that here today, obviously, running in the it looks like now we've got our XC2 guys checking in. Jason Thomas takes over that 10th spot overall. He is your leader in the XC2 class, followed by Nick Davis in second place. We do see that we've got a couple of riders at the top of our screen that have checked in from the 4-stroke B lights class, first and second overall. Those guys have obviously gotten onto the wrong track. They'll get that sorted out here. So any of you watching at home or watching the live timing, you can disregard those guys there. So again, as we run down our top 10, it's Josh Strang, Ryan Sipes, Thad Duvall, Tyler Medaglia, Andrew DeLong, Chris Bach, Caleb Russell, Jason Thomas, Corey Buttrick, and Daniel Milner rounding out the top 10. So we've got only one XC2 rider in the top 10, which is surprising because normally we see those guys right up in there. Perhaps that's really a testament to how tough this track is today.
I was just getting ready to say, that's going to tell me that it's a little rougher than some people are telling us, stopping those guys from making the move on the first lap.
Yeah, you know, it is crazy. And while you're watching at home, folks, we've got our AMSOIL Twitter contest. You can tweet your podium finisher predictions to hashtag GNCC Live for a chance to win $250 in AMSOIL products. The winner's chosen randomly, which means you don't have to be right. You just got to get your picks in. So hop on Twitter, get on your phone, get on your computer, get your picks in, and before it's too late, you get a chance to win that wonderful $250 in AMSOIL products. Megawatt, I'm going to put you on the spot. We're back from break here. It's been 3 months. We know what everybody's been doing. We all keep up on social media, just like these guys are going to do in joining in this contest. Who's your top 3? Let's hear it.
Sipes, Bach, and Strange.
Sipe, Bach, and Strang. So we've got the top 3 from Matt Watson, Ryan Sipes, Chris Bach, Josh Strang. I'm going to go with Chris Bach for the win. I'm going to go with Ryan Sipes for second. And I'm going to say the big KR, Caleb Russell, is going to pull through, get that podium spot, and wrap up that championship.
But you know, Johnny, that and 45 cents will buy you a cup of coffee because our accuracy this year has not been that good.
I don't
in
think
the
I've been anywhere near the top 3 in order. It's been pretty bad. So we'll have to. Rodney will be here in a bit, and we'll get his take. Maybe Rodney's the Mr. GNCC himself, so he might have a little bit better guess than what we do. And I think actually we may have a little bit of an update on Caleb Russell. I think we got a chance to speak with him earlier today. I think we have that queued up, and we can hear exactly what he had to say about what's been going on and what led into this event and what kind of condition he's in.
Yeah, so here we are, round number 10 at Unadilla. Just got back from ISD in Slovakia and didn't have quite the performance I was looking for over there. I was doing really good, and then I ended up getting injured on day 2 and then re-injuring myself further on day 3. And also ended up having a big crash after the injury. But looking to get out here today and or tomorrow and just finish the race and just win the championship. That's the goal now, and it's kind of tough for me to do because I'm so used to being able to go for the win, and obviously that's not the case this weekend, and it's a tough pill to swallow, and it's kind of hard for me to look at it that way. But as far as just getting through the race. But I've got a torn ACL for sure, and I'm going to try to get through this race, wrap up the championship, and see what I can do in the Enduros and get my knee fixed. So this will be the last race GNCC I'm doing for 2015, and I'll be back ready to go in 16.
Well, there you have it, folks. And I'll be honest with you, that was the first time I'd heard that. I spoke with Caleb a little bit during the week. I didn't really want to put him on the spot. I know how guys like to keep their cards close to their chest, and but obviously with him coming right out and saying, hey, if I can wrap this thing up, that's it, I'm done. I'm gonna do what I need to do to potentially wrap up the Enduro Championship or whatever he can do there. I'm sure a lot's going to depend on how he does today. Unfortunately, I can speak from experience on this one. I've torn my ACL. You can ride. What it really comes down to is when you have to dab or when you have to put your foot down in a rut. That's where the stability becomes an issue. That's where the pain becomes an issue. I saw Caleb walking around. He's definitely limping. But at the same time, he's a tough guy. He's going to get out there. I'll be honest, I was a little bit surprised to hear him say, I'm not in condition to go for the win. So for him coming in that way, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say he may surprise himself. Obviously, a lot's going to depend on if he catches his foot on a root or a rut, that could very possibly derail his day very quickly. But if he can get through these first couple laps smoothly and realize, hey, you know, Caleb's kind of been on his own level a little bit this year. And if he can ride at that safe 80, 85% and keep himself in podium contention, I wouldn't be surprised if he's in striking distance to see him go for a win late in the race. But we got to see how that shapes up. He's got a big deficit right now to make up based on that crash early.
Based on what you just said, Johnny, what a lot of people don't understand, with that injury, you don't have to crash. You don't have to come up. Simple twisting of the ankle transfers into that knee, and that can be as painful as any crash. And at this time, you're telling, you know, use your best judgment, use discretion, this and that. Well, that's like telling Bob Hanna use throttle control.
Yeah.
Okay? It's not in the vocabulary for Caleb.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, and it shows a lot of maturity on Caleb's part.
Yep.
You know, I was surprised to hear that in that interview, that him say, I'm not really out there going for the win. I'm trying to win this championship. But at the same time, that's a new level of maturity for Caleb, and for him to be able to accept the fact that maybe, all things being considered, he might need to go out there and just do a championship salvaging ride today. But again, you know, with Grant Baylor being, I don't have the points in front of me. We'll work that out here, the math, but I believe it's, if I'm not mistaken, it was right around 101 or 102 points, somewhere in there, with 104 points, I was just corrected, thanks to our producer, Jason Hooper. So with 104 points, there's 120 left on the table. There's 30 points for a win with 4 races left, including today. So with 120 points left on the table, that means that Caleb Russell needs to leave here with 91 points over Grant Baylor or whoever moves into the second place position today. And here we see Josh Strang working his way through. And again, our all-knowing producer, Jason Hooper, points out the fact that technically he only needs to leave here with a 90-point lead because he's already won more races, and that is the tiebreaker. No one could exceed him in race wins in 2015. So Jason Hooper, 2 for 2. He's batting 1,000.
And you know, he had to make me look good earlier and let us know that the overall winner from the ladies ISDE was with us from Australia today, Taylor. And I guess she just smeared him over there. She won by like 2 minutes and came over and raced against the toughest ladies in the world in America. Yeah, Taylor Jones put in a good ride this morning. I believe she ended up in 4th place, and she did really well over there in ISDE. She's a visiting member of the AmPro team from Yamaha Australia, sent her over here, and she did very well this morning, and it was exciting to have. And we've got quite a bit of international flair this weekend. Obviously, Daniel Milner's a regular here, did incredible over there with the 2nd place overall in ISDE. And there's some other riders here from all over the world, rather. We've got Tyler Medaglia here with us, and obviously was running 4th place early. We'll have to check in and see where he's at. And also, we've got another rider, a beta rider. I can't really pronounce his name, so we'll check in with him and see how he's doing. He's not inside the top 20 overall right now, but he was up there early off the start, I saw. So, yeah, a little bit of an international flair, like you said. And again, that goes back to those guys coming over here after ISDE, where obviously we were just talking, Caleb Russell had that injury and is now trying to salvage what he needs to do. It looks like that was Grant Baylor, if I'm not mistaken. We got a little bit of sunshine in our screen here, but I could tell by that Camelback that was in fact Grant Baylor. So we'll have to check in and see when we see those guys next. Maybe somebody can fill us in if we saw Caleb Russell come by this shot or not. So it sounds like Caleb was 1 or 2 riders in front of Grant, so he is still doing what he needs to do to win that championship. And mathematically, you know, what Caleb really needs to do, basically, if we do the math, let's do some math right now, Matt. He's got 104 points. He needs to leave here with 90 points, which means he can give up no more than 14 points to 2nd place Grant Baylor. So presuming that Grant Baylor would win this race, that would mean Caleb Russell would need to score 16 points, which would be a 5th place finish. 5th place finish would be enough for him if Grant Baylor were to win. Or when it works, if we work it backwards, plain and simple, he needs to finish within 14 points of Grant Baylor to wrap up this championship. So he's ahead of him right now, but he doesn't technically need to beat him. Here he goes, Josh Strang laying it flat. Oh my, look at Ryan Sipes. He said to those fans right there, hey, you want to see the drain plug on this Husqvarna FC450? Here it is. Absolutely.
And here comes Thad Duvall. We know he's going to have something in store for us. And there it is.
And you know, that guy loves it. You can see. I've ridden with that kid since he was 10, 12 years old. And you know what? He's had the same style. He's had that same flair. And anytime he sees a big lip, he'll hit it, man. You can count on it.
Absolutely. Thad's been throwing nasty whips since way back in the day. And this is he probably looks forward to this all year.
But I saw that kid turn a YZ85 upside down. Okay?
So our top 3 checked in. That was Josh Strang leading, Ryan Sipes in second, and Thad Duvall in third. That looked like Chris Bach, who appeared to be in the 4th place position, and then there was about 3 more riders behind him. So I think we've had our top 6 or 7 come through. I know for sure Andrew DeLong was one of those, and I'm assuming Tyler Medaglia was the other one. So it looks like, nearest we can tell, it was Bach in 4th, Medaglia in 5th, and then Andrew DeLong in 6th. Now we wait for our 7th place rider, which should be, if we are correct from we saw, Caleb Russell, and here he comes. Caleb wasn't able to jump the sky shot last time because he had a rider in front of him. This time he does not go for it. So you have to wonder if maybe it's the fact that he hasn't seen the other riders are doing it, or if it's just he doesn't want to chance the impact on that knee.
Oh, no question. The bottom line is it's safer to not do it. Okay,
Sure.
there's less of a risk to not do it, and there's less impact by far. So, he's not going to gain a position on this lap by doing it.
No, absolutely. And, we see Caleb leading a trio of riders. Looks like 4, actually, maybe 5 riders behind him. And now here comes the rest of the XC1, and we'll start seeing our XC2 riders check in here. These guys are, they're hard on the gas, but right now it seems like the top 6 have pulled a pretty solid gap. And, that's, again, Caleb Russell. I think if all things being considered, obviously without that knee injury, we'd see Caleb and he would be charging up, chasing after those top 6. But today, he knows where he's at. He knows the guys that are in front of him. He knows he doesn't need to beat those guys or even finish anywhere near them to wrap up this championship today. So I think Caleb's sticking to his word. He's not wicking it up. He's not going after it. You can see his style. He's keeping it very controlled, very smooth. And, he's just out there on I guess what you would call a salvage ride. I
hate to use that term, but it's, that's the way to sum it up, Johnny. It really is.
Yep, and there we have our XC2 leader. Looks like Jason Thomas with the lead. Nick Davis hot on his heels in second. Man, these guys, it seems like all year long, if both of their bikes are running and both of them are still racing, these guys are nose to tail just giving it to each other. And
those guys always end up together, don't they?
And I don't mind to say it. There's no love lost between these two guys. They don't like each other. They want to battle each other. They knock each other down. They fight each other not fight, but they fight each other on the bike tooth and nail. And it's exciting to watch.
Yeah.
I think on some level they respect each other as racers. But aside from that, there's no quarter asked or given.
They don't like any of the same things. They're not concerned with each other's personal lives. I can guarantee you that. And they will tell you the same thing, but respect each other on the track. Right, I tell you, I'm going to turn it over to... All right, we're going to turn it over to the godfather of GNCC announcing here in just a minute, our host, Rodney Tomlin. I've got some duties to take care of, and I'll check back in with you just shortly, Johnny.
All right, we'll see you, Megawatt. We're going to a commercial, and after a word from our sponsors, we'll be back with more action from the Unadilla GNCC.
The Sunstar Work Z rear sprocket is made of stainless steel, making it 3 times more durable than a standard steel sprocket. Team it with the 520 XTG triple guard sealed ring chain with 3 lubrication pools per side. Durability in the toughest conditions.
General RV is going to help you go camping with locations across the nation and thousands of RVs to choose from. General RV is the nation's largest family-owned RV dealer. At General RV, you'll save thousands on everything from trailers that sleep the whole family right up to motorhomes that are amazing and so economical to travel in. General RV is the only dealer who can show you this much and save you this much. With a great deal from General RV, you'll discover how much fun camping can be.
Back to RacerTV.com's coverage of GNCC Live. It's the Parts Unlimited Unadilla GNCC. Rodney Thompson along now with Johnny Gallagher and Megawatt Matt Watson out and about. Going to get some roving stories as we are looking at an absolutely beautiful day. Great track conditions, especially after yesterday's dusty conditions. Overnight rain showers, about a half inch, has basically watered our track to perfection. Johnny Gallagher, what an amazing start to this race we've seen already. We've got the word in the news, and I talked to him personally earlier today, and he made the announcement during pre-race interviews, and that was the fact that Caleb Russell has the torn ACL, and the fact that he is here and he is going to be racing, and he wants to capture that championship, and he said if he can finish and he feels good enough, he will finish, but if it's too much, he said he will pull out. One other thing he did say was that he was also going to be racing the final 2 National Enduros, so he had actually put his surgery off for his knee injury for a few more weeks, and actually it was originally scheduled for this past Thursday, and he went and seen a few folks, and they said with a little rehab and stuff, he might be able to make it. So that's what they're testing out here today, and he's hoping to be able to capture that championship. On the flip side of that, that gives us an opportunity to see some hungry individuals, and quite possibly some of the best racing up front for the overall we've seen so far this year. Aside from maybe the Tomahawk GNCC that we saw Chris Bach win earlier this season, we saw Ryan Sipes challenge Caleb Russell a couple times and make for a good race for the overall, but Caleb has always come out on top and unscathed, it seems like, for the most part this season. But today, Caleb's not so much a factor up front, at least not right now, and these guys smell blood in the water. The Sharks are circling, and they are fighting it out, trying to get that overall win.
Yeah, you know, we've seen this so many times where a guy establishes himself as the dominant figure in racing, and everybody kind of, whether it's if it's a conscious decision or subconsciously, what happens is you start racing for second place. We've seen so much of that in 2015, obviously, which is the one single exception. Caleb had a little bit of a chink in his armor. The last time he was in New York at the Tomahawk, Chris Bach was able to really put together a great ride. And in Chris Bach's own words after the race, he was just kept waiting for Caleb to come, and Caleb never came. Now, Chris obviously put in a phenomenal race that race, but that was the only time this year that Caleb has really been he's been under pressure, as you mentioned, from Josh Strang early in the season, from Ryan Sipes a number of times, but Caleb's always been able to stretch out that little bit of a comfortable gap. We haven't seen a battle down to the finish or anything even remotely close to a battle to the finish. He's always been able to put it away in the last couple laps, put it on cruise control, and bring it in, bring it home. So I imagine, obviously, with the 2 months off, or 3 months off, you know, with these guys getting to kind of regroup, revamp their programs, push themselves, they were planning on coming after Caleb anyway. Then obviously the unfortunate injury, all the things leading up to it. But, you know, as we were talking about a moment ago with Caleb's interview, him saying that he's here to salvage championship, then hopefully try and wrap up the National Enduro Championship if possible, and then take that surgery, which will set him up going into 2016 and beyond. You know, one thing I can tell you, unfortunately, as I mentioned before, I have a little bit of experience with the torn ACLs. I've been through it. I've, you know, been with a number of riders who've been through it, and, you know, it's about a 2-month recovery time to when he could be back on the bike. So nothing really to be concerned about for Caleb long term. If he can put this championship on ice, do what he needs to do to potentially wrap up the National Enduro Championship and have a phenomenal season and still say, hey guys, I'm going to cut it in a little bit early, and I'm going to go get this done so I can even get my preseason prep for 2016 going earlier.
45 minutes into this race, lap number 2, Josh Strang grabbed the whole shot, got himself an extra $250, and he hangs on to the lead, as we just saw the number 2 Rockstar Husqvarna factory racer rounding the backside of the pits there, actually down by the start line, and now they're rounding by the backside of the pits, and we'll see him coming into the pit row here on lap number 2. 45.5 minutes into this race. Strang seems to be opening up maybe a little bit of comfort zone. We'll see how much. No, it's not nearly as comfortable as I thought. That I guess Ryan Sipes has got so much mud all over him, he kind of blended into the scenery back there, and there he is right there in the thick of things in the number 2 spot. And
Pat Duvall right behind him in third there also, so the top 3 are all wheel to wheel.
Yeah, so, and these guys all coming off some really good performances at the ISDE just a little over a week ago. So they're riding on that high right now. They're riding on the fact that they know that Caleb's injured, so they're all pushing the envelope. Another interesting thing that I noted whenever I was making my way from the starting line up here is Josh Strang wraps up lap number 2 now, and that is the completion of that one. So we got Strang, we got Sipes, 2.8 seconds back, and another 2.5 seconds back according to scoring and timing is Thad Duvall. But one of the neat things that I noticed as I was making my way up here, Johnny, is the leaders came by. Josh Strang, followed then by Sipes, by Duvall, Tyler Medaglia in fourth. Then it was Chris Bach, and then I think it was Andrew DeLong running back in sixth. 5 of the top 6 riders were all on Husqvarna, and that's something 2-3 years ago we would have never even thought about.
Yeah, it looks like there is still 4 of the top 5, and actually here comes Medaglia. So it is still 5 of the top 6 on Huskies. Medaglia now checking in 6. We did just see Bach and DeLong come through while you were going through that there. So these guys now will be waiting on, I believe Caleb Russell would be next in the 7th place position. But yeah, that's phenomenal. 5 of the top 6 guys on Husky. You know, back in the 80s and early 90s, Husqvarna dominated GNCC and off-road. They went away for a long time. They came back a few years ago. They've been building that brand, and not only are they dominating here today so far, you know, obviously with Ryan Sipes getting that overall win at ISTE, we can't talk about that enough. 90 years, Rodney. 90 years of ISTE racing, and this is the first time that an American is able to do that. Here's Caleb Russell. You know, he was the one who kind of has been really spearheading that effort for the Americans and over in ISTE. He's kind of taken over that role of team captain. And, you know, Caleb looks pretty confident on the bike right now, especially considering his injury. He knows what he needs to do. He's managing this race. And there is the rider closest to him in points, now also the closest rider to him on the track, in the 8th place position in Grant Paler. And what can we say about Corey Buttrick, 9th place right now in XC1? After a long time away, Corey came back, joined us a little bit last season, and then came back full-time in the XC2 class this year as a part of that American Beta effort. You know, I don't know what's supposed to be discussed and what's not, but between you and me, very evident Corey will not be back with the same program next year, and that's why he's riding this bike in XC1. He was in negotiations with Beta from what I've heard, the rumor mill, and things have fallen apart. He's not going to be riding that machine next year, but he's going to finish out the season with those guys and said, hey, I'm going to go see what I can do in XC1 and possibly get myself a ride for next year.
There you go. And, you know, Corey B, obviously, you know, being out for a couple of years, it's hard to get back up to speed. And this is a good way for him to judge and see what he's got to do to reach that level. And that's awesome. When I seen his name and was able to announce his name off the starting line today, I was really stoked and excited to see him progressing in that direction. Regardless of the circumstances that puts him there, I think he's right where he needs to be honest with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think for Corey, you know, and that was another one of those knee injuries that started off as kind of a, you know, run-of-the-mill ACL tear. He did that while, I believe, practicing for a GNCC. And when he tore that knee up, he had the surgery, came back, was messing around on a trials bike during the week, tore that knee again, had to have a more comprehensive, more involved surgery, and then it's been this battle for him for many years now to try and get back to where he once was. And, you know, running inside the top 10 overall at a GNCC is exactly where Corey Buttrick needs to be to build back to the days when he was winning races.
This is exactly the kind of race day that Corey B is needing. There is no doubt about that in my mind. This is the kind of day that he needs. He needed to be in this class, and he needed to be doing exactly what he's doing. And this is a good gauge for him, because now he says, yes, I've still got what it takes to be top 10. I've still got what it takes to push, because he knows if you're top 10, all it's going to take is just a few more little pushes to get you into the top 5 and a couple more pushes to get you up into podium contention and winning contention before long. So he's not as far behind, at least early on here in the race, as probably what some people might have thought, considering that he's been racing the XC2 Pro Lights for this past season. Speaking of XC2 Pro Lights, we got some of those guys checking in. Jason Thomas is leading that. He's actually running 12th place overall. Tegan Temple running 2nd place in the class. Scotty Grills, number 228, back on the number 3 spot. And Thomas and Temple, look at that gap between them, 7/10 of a second. Those guys are literally racing side by side right now.
Yeah, and if you look there, that's actually Scott Grills in 3rd. Looks like he was only 2 seconds behind, and then Nick Davis 7/10 of a second behind him. So that means we have the top 4 riders inside of 3 seconds. So these guys were nose to tail coming through there. And you know, you were just pointing out the thing with obviously with Corey Buttrick, running XC1. You know, he's been having some solid rides, some solid top 10s in XC2. But for him to come out today, obviously with a little bit of shot of motivation, potentially, again, if I'm hearing the rumors correctly, I'm not trying to spread rumors, but it looks like he may be searching for a ride for next year, or maybe he's already secured one, but not going to be back with that beta team. So a little bit of a shot in the arm for him to come out and show what he's capable of. And it's translated into, so far, a 10th place overall and ahead of all of the competitors in the XC2 class that he has been battling with this year, and guys that have been, not to put it in a negative way, but consistently and regularly beating him.
Right.
He's pulling away from right now.
There's something about that front row that actually elevates these riders to a whole different level, I believe, Johnny. And you know what it is, I think, just being up there and can feel it. But until you've actually had to do it, you don't know what kind of a step it is. I mean, it's funny how much of a surprise you talk to an XC2 rider that has ridden in contention for overalls, top fives, and was running a lot of the paces seemingly as what the front row was. But when they race against those guys, they just can't seem to match that kind of speed.
Well, we've seen it with riders going back as far as, Thad Duvall was nearly winning overalls when he was the XC2 champion. Caleb Russell had some phenomenal rides from the XC2 class, but it takes these guys a little bit of time when they get into XC1 to be able to battle with guys that they're regularly beating with that 1 minute time adjustment. So for not only Corey Buttrick to be able to be up there in the top 10, but again, seemingly, at least right now, pulling away from or holding his own against guys that have been consistently beating him this year, that's really a shot in the arm of confidence for him and, what he needs going into the rest of the season and going into 2016.
Working on lap 3 right now, 52.5 minutes into this race. Caleb Russell is one rider that a lot of folks have been focusing on. We've been talking about a lot of different guys, and the big news is, of course, Caleb trying to win that championship. The second big news is folks that are trying to win the race here today in the presence of Caleb's misfortunes there. And one thing to point out, too, Johnny, I don't know if anyone's talked about how Caleb actually injured his knee or not, but just to give you an idea, and not that this had anything to do with it, but Caleb is riding a 250 today. He also rode a 250 at the ISDE. I think he was telling me it was like either the first or second day, I can't remember which it was, but it was actually the day before he crashed, and we saw all the social media posts of the bike, the early crash that he had taken, that the crash that injured his knee actually had taken place. What happened was he G'd out. I guess he went down into a ravine or whatever, and he G'd out so hard that he didn't even crash the bike. That's what tore the ACL, and it wasn't even a crash. The crash that we saw all the pictures from had nothing to do with that. It was after the fact, actually.
Yeah, I had actually been following Caleb and all those guys on social media over there. I was very interested to see, obviously, with the trophy team and the junior team doing so well. I was excited to see the Americans, really holding their own and actually kind of pulling away from the rest of the pack over there for a while. But Caleb, as he mentioned, on day 2, G'd out, tore that ACL at that point, or at least partially tore it, and then the following day had a crazy endo on a downhill that sent the bike flipping end over end, and that kind of finished things off. But actually, that's a number of times guys will tear ACLs without crashing at all. A lot of times I know Chris Bach has actually torn both of his. Both times did not involve a crash. It was he caught his foot, or hit the toe of his foot on a root, and it just pulled the toe around towards the heel, and that was enough to tear the ACL. When I tore mine, it was actually, I overjumped a very big jump at Redbud, and when I landed, it pushed my femur out over the top of my tibia fibia because I was standing with my leg locked. So, that force, that impact when you G out, when you land that hard, can in fact be enough to tear ligaments. So anybody that thinks these guys out there are not the toughest athletes on the planet, you guys don't know what you're talking about. These guys are bad dudes. If you can tear ligaments without even coming off your machine or crashing, that just goes to show the kind of G-forces and the kind of force that these guys' bodies are taking.
Josh Strang, Ryan Sipes, Thad Duvall running 1, 2, and 3 right now. Chris Bach about 24 seconds back now in 4th. Andrew DeLong is 5th. Tyler Medaglia now dropping to the number 6 spot aboard the number 903. Daniel Milner, who also is a GNCC favorite, participating in the ISDE. I think he got, 2nd overall, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, 2nd overall, and was actually battling with Sipes and Caleb prior to Caleb's injury. Those 3 kind of pulled, from what I saw, had pulled away from everybody else. And it was kind of cool to see, obviously, Milner. Here is Josh Strang, your leader, and we'll watch and see. I don't see our 2nd place rider, Ryan Sipes, yet. Kind of hard to tell in the dark here. There is Thad Duvall going up the left line.
Now, maybe we may have missed Ryan going by in
Okay, so it sounds like we may have missed Ryan Sipes, but I did see a rider right behind Thad Duvall there with a Liat Camelback that appeared to be looking just like Sipes. So it's possible Sipes may be back into third or might be out front. We'll have to wait till the next time we see him, which should be at the Sky Shot.
Yeah, about the 5 mile marker, I think. We're at mile marker number 3 right here as we watch a very tricky section. Now, watching this section of the track, you know, seeing it on camera, see how there's a lot of lights and things, the trees, there's a lot of sun coming through. Does that play havoc on your eyes whenever you're racing on a sunny day like this?
You know, as we watch Chris Bach come through there in the 4th place spot, it can play with your mind a little bit. It looks like that's nope, not Andrew DeLong. We were waiting on Andrew. That's not Tyler Medaglia. So I don't know if we missed Andrew DeLong. It's kind of hard to see, but as much as it's playing havoc with our camera, it can do the exact same thing to you while you're riding. A lot of these guys will run special lenses. They'll run either an amber lens or a yellow lens that'll kind of amplify the light. The problem is we've got so much open stuff here at Unadilla. When they come out into the open, then it's basically like they're getting flooded out. Just their eyes flashed with, you know, like somebody put a bright light in them. So it's kind of one of those things where you have to make your choice with the goggles and you got to stick to it. But, you know, yesterday, obviously, we had some inclement conditions a little bit during the race with the wind kicked up. It kind of got dark there for a bit, and it actually started raining. And it was a shock to the system going into the woods, which had been much lighter throughout the day, suddenly got darker, and you kind of had to adjust when you were picking your lines. And keep in mind, the dirt here is also very dark.
Yes.
So it really kind of messes with you a little bit. There is Grant Baylor. So I don't know if we missed Caleb Russell, but it appears that Grant Baylor may have made the pass on Caleb for that 7th place spot. We'll have to wait and see when those guys check back in. Things may have gotten shaken up here a bit. There's Jordan Ashburn. So these guys now all making their way through here at this Parts Unlimited hill climb.
Man, I'm having a tough time seeing the TV screen, Johnny. I don't see how you see it.
Yeah, we know for sure that we had the top, well, we didn't see Ryan Sipes, but we believe he was either 1st or 3rd, depending on what we saw. We know Chris Bach was in 4th. We know 2nd place, at least we believe, was Thad Duvall, then Sipes in 3rd.
Here we go.
Here they come. So it is Strang leading. So that means I think that was, in fact, Sipes that we saw in 3rd. We're going to see if Strang's able to go for the Sky Shot here in traffic, and it does not look like it. He didn't know if there was anybody up there or not.
I might have saw it wrong. Whoa, somebody just got Sky Shot.
And there is Sipes in 3rd. So that was the Liat Camelback of Sipes that I saw right behind Duvall. So we've got Josh Strang leading the way, Thad Duvall in 2nd, splitting the lappers and doubling in there. Ryan Sipes does the same, doubles all the way through there. And so Sipes in 3rd place. So these guys all within eye shot of each other. They can all see each other. And next we should be looking for Chris Bach in that 4th place spot.
Going to be a big day, Johnny. I feel it in my bones, man. They're going to see some really great things before this is all said and done as we take a split view of some action going on here. Is that Bach back in the number 5 spot? So these guys are getting some air over Sky Shot. Those of you saying, wow, that's not a lot of air, you got to realize they're doing it on a very short run by comparison. Normally it's a big sweeper turn into that and you can launch out of there, but they've actually got a couple of chicanes set up in there, so it slows the riders down. And very few were actually attempting the jump yesterday on the ATVs. I did see Walker Fowler nearly clear the thing, and then we're seeing some of the bike guys do it. But regardless, gives us a good opportunity to look at how these riders are shaping up. Strang still got the lead. That 2.8 second lead has now stretched out to somewhere in the neighborhood of about 6 seconds over Thad Duvall, with Ryan Sipes virtually on his rear wheel, a couple of seconds back there. It'd be interesting to see if they tighten up in this next section coming up, leading to the finish line, as we lead to the finish line anyway, because it seems like we see these guys stretch out a little bit and get back together, and this could be part of it. Wow!
There goes Caleb Russell, so it appears he is still ahead of our, what we thought might have been our new 7th place rider, Grant Baylor. It looks like Caleb, we must have missed him in the dark there. He is still ahead of Baylor. He's working his way through this section. He's still doubling. He's still pushing himself on the moto track. Obviously that knee's holding up well enough that he's able to keep himself in contention and, again, go on this championship victory lap, I guess, if he can get it done today.
Wow, we could be crowning a champion today, and that right there would really serve a huge purpose in the healing efforts, I think, of Caleb Russell, to be honest with you. Even though he's going to still wait on surgery, he's still got plenty of time to keep maintaining that. And You know, good question Jason Hooper asked, and that's one thing that I was thinking about also, and that's a good question to ask Johnny Gallagher on the motorcycle side of things. Have we ever seen a motorcycle championship wrapped up as early as 10 rounds in the history that you've been around anyway?
The closest I could think of it, I think Juha Salomon won all but 2 races one year. So I think he wrapped it up with 3 to go. And that would have been like 2009, 8, or yeah, no, I'm sorry, earlier than that. It would have been, 2005, 2006, somewhere in there. He wrapped up a championship very early. Here we see it looks like Nick Davis may have taken over the lead in our XC2 class, because I believe that was Takeshi Koiketa there behind him. We'll have to wait and see if we see. There's Chris Douglas, one of our XC1 riders, checking in. Don't know if we saw Jason Thomas or not, but again, I don't think we've ever seen a rider wrap up a championship with 3 full rounds remaining.
Yeah, so we'll have to certainly go into the history books and find that one out. Barry Hawk would be another good one probably to ask that question. Now, on the ATV side of things, I think we probably have seen that happen. It's not necessarily been something that, even though we've seen a lot of dominations and stuff, it's not something that's happened a lot, but I think that it has happened with ATVs.
Well, we have to remember there was a rule change roundabout, I believe it was, hey man, we're really going back now. There was a rule change in the early 2000s. It used to be that only 9 races counted out of 12. Now that we count all 13,
right.
So that severely changes exactly how the championship worked in terms of points and all that. But yes, prior to all 13 races counting, there was obviously riders that had wrapped it up very early in the season because they had those throwaways. But with all 13 races counting and every point counting, it makes it a little bit more difficult to wrap things up so early because there are no drops. So what we have is, I think Bill Balance, I believe, wrapped it up as early as possibly 1 year going into the break. He already had it wrapped up with 4 rounds remaining.
Yeah.
But I don't think we've ever seen it done on the bike side for sure with 3 rounds remaining, which really does show a testament to just how dominant Caleb Russell has been this year.
Yeah, that is a true testament to that, and of course, interesting history that we are uncovering here as a part of GNCC Live today, as we are live from the Parts Unlimited Unadilla GNCC, an hour and 3 minutes now into this race. We're on lap number 3, working on this one. Watching here at the 5 mile marker, our leaders should be nearing, I believe, probably the 7 minutes or so. Well, right now, the way things are breaking down, last time we saw them, it was Strang, Sipes, and Duval 1, 2, and 3. Now it's Strang, Duval, and Sipes. And, Johnny, both of these guys had a really, really good year this year. I know that, we've been talking a lot about all the great accomplishments that Ryan has made, but Thad Duval is another rider that we've seen a lot of great accomplishments out of, and we're witnessing, I think, the continuing progression of what's going on in his career right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Thad's really come into his own. We talked about his change riding for that FAR Husqvarna KR4 team that he's riding for. He's been riding incredibly well. He's been consistent. To have those people behind him, pushing him, believing in him, has really elevated not only his riding, but his consistency to the next level. And we've seen a whole new Thad Duval this season. Obviously, we've seen him on the podium a number of times. He's been so close to that win a number of times. But more importantly, for him to currently be sitting in the 3rd place spot after 9 rounds of racing, that's the type of Thad Duval we haven't seen in years. We haven't seen that Thad Duval in the XC1 class ever.
Right.
We've seen bad Thad. We've seen Thad that can win races, but we've never seen Thad that can put together an entire season of consistency, and that's exactly what he's been doing this year. So I think we actually had an opportunity to check in with Thad a little bit earlier today and hear how things went. And obviously, he had a great ride over there at ISDE going until some troubles came his way. So we'll hear what he had to say about it.
All right, here we are. Thad Duval. We're at Unadilla GNCC this weekend. Beautiful weather today. Going to be a little cooler tomorrow. But, it's been a pretty busy summer. I've been to 6 days and been doing a lot of racing here and there. And it's been awesome. We've made some changes on the bike. And I'm really, really looking forward to this weekend. I've had some really stellar rides here. And I've got my first ever career XC1 win here. So, coming in this round, I know I've prepared right. I've been doing a lot of mountain biking over the summer, and been doing a lot of riding and testing and racing. And we just got back from Slovakia this week, and it was fun being over there, getting a little relaxation, plus getting in some gnarly riding in preparation for here. And You know, it's should be awesome. You know, rumor is Caleb's pretty hurt, but you know, kind of opens the door for the championship. But there's rumors he's riding too. So you know, it's I really don't want to think about that. I want to go out and try to win some races. You know, I've got a second this year, but no wins. I haven't broke that top spot yet. But really looking forward to this race and walking out here with a win.
I'll tell you what, he's riding like he wants to win today. There's no doubt about it. Thad actually took the win here, his first ever XC1 overall win in 2012. You remember who got second that day? It was Paul Whibley in second, but get this, Nate Canny got third place. Here's some interesting facts about Nate Canny, by the way, who is no longer racing with us, but I did some looking around and some checking around. And actually, Nate Canny, I believe, has finished on the podium, or did over the course of the 10 races that we've ran here so far, finished on the podium like 6 times throughout the course of the history of this event, man. I mean, this is one of his, well, it's his stomping grounds, obviously. His home state was, and still is, I guess, but I think that the folks from around New York will never forget what Nate was able to accomplish here, that's for sure.
No, absolutely. You know, Nate was a true New Yorker. He started chasing this series being here from New York, and when he heard that the GNCC was coming to New York, to Unadilla, he knew he needed to win it, and he did just exactly that. I believe he won it twice, but I'm not certain. I know he
actually,
won once.
He won it once. He won it in 2006. I think that's the only win he actually was able to come away with during that time.
He won a number of races, just only that one here.
Yeah.
But, you know, he won a lot of races over his career. He was an excellent rider. And, you know, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he's here walking around somewhere. I actually ran into him in the pits last year when I was out cheering on Chris Bach, or maybe it was 2 years ago. And he was out kind of keeping it low-key, trying to hide from everybody. Didn't really want to talk, didn't really want to, you know, be bothered. He does a lot of bicycle racing now. He's still very active, but, you know, he was kind of here in the heyday when all the factories were involved, had some great rides, won a lot of races, won snowshoe, won this race, won Ironman, won a lot of races on that 250cc two-stroke, actually rode for the Geico Honda team for a while. So he was here, there, and everywhere, had some great rides. And, you know, Nate, if you're out there, stop by the Racer TV studios. We'd love to talk to you. Wouldn't be surprised if you are meandering around in the pits. Might have to send him a text and see if he's in town.
There you go. It'd be nice to see him, that's for sure. I'm surprised that we haven't seen him.
And what we do see is Josh Strang working his way through the chicanes. He's just above the start area, working his way towards the finish. And it looks like he might have a shadow. Is that Thad Duvall right behind him?
Wow, I tell you, it wouldn't be surprising to see that happen like we were talking there. The momentum of the 6 days and, of course, getting his first ever win here. The comfort zone that he rides in here is, I'm sure, second to very few. And probably none at this point, but right now we watch.
They're working their way through VP Fuels Pro Row here, and you know, I'm not certain, but I'm almost sure that was Thad Duvall right on his rear wheel in the second place position.
Well, we'll know more when they round this turn here in just a moment, and it does look like pit stops are going to be prevailing here as Josh Strang moves into the pits now.
Sipes did not pit. Ryan Sipes goes to lead. Looks like Thad Duvall through there as well. Not sure if he pulled into the pits. We'll have to back up our shot here and see exactly where those guys are at.
Well, I'll tell you, I don't know how much time they're going to gain, but I know now that Ryan Sipes is out front, this might be the kind of momentum and the what he was looking for, the spark, I guess, here early in the race. But again, we got to remember, if these guys continue to be tight like this and they come around and pit next race, it's going to be the same thing.
And here we have Ryan Sipes now taking over the lead, Thad Duvall in second. And there we see Josh Strang in third, so we're not sure. We'll have to get confirmation whether or not Thad Duvall pulled into the pits. If he did, it was a very quick pit stop he had.
Wow. So the way it looks, we got Ryan Sipes 1.8 seconds back now is Thad Duvall. Josh Strang 7 seconds back in the number 3 spot. 24 seconds back a lap ago was Chris Bach, so we've seen some changes going on back there.
And here is Bach. It seemed like he had lost a little bit of ground, obviously, on that second lap. We'll have to see how this works out on the third lap. I think he's about stabilized there in that 25, maybe 30-second mark. Oh, we got a down ride. Loses a couple seconds there. Bach checking in now. Looks like he is 35 seconds back, so he gives about another 10 seconds. We don't know if Bach pitted on that lap or not, or if he's able to stretch it. Looks like Tyler Medaglia is still hanging tough in the 5th place spot. Here's a guy that we had you know, other than his motocross background, nobody expected him to do much in GNCC.
left a
Rodney,
big
you know
mark.
the story. He just came out in Florida and said, hey, man, I brought my practice bike. I need some seat time. What better than 3 hours at a time? You know, for me to do, basically, he'd have to do 6 30-minute motos in a day to prep for that. He figured I'll just get him out of the way all at once. Showed up at the race, bike in the back of a pickup, and I believe he finished 5th or 6th at our season opener in Florida. Great ride, and then backed it up with another good one in Georgia. And even despite only racing the first few races and then also racing the New York race, which was close to him being up there in Canada, he is in the top 20 in overall points. So it's been a good season for him, and maybe he's trying to catch the radar of a factory team.
There you go. Might very well do so. I think he's probably on there right now, blipping pretty heavily. There's the 314 of the young Grant Baylor, the rider trying to play spoiler for Caleb Russell's 3rd championship, and he's in and out of the pits now on his Infab Am Pro Yamaha as he makes his way around now for 3rd lap complete. So far, we've seen Sykes, Duval, Strang, Chris Bach in 4th. Andrew DeLong has checked in the number 5 spot. Tyler Medaglia, the 903, is 6th place now.
And here we see Daniel Milner, who was actually running up there in the 7th place spot last lap, and he is in the pit, so he's definitely lost a few positions. Caleb Russell checking in now. Looks like he will be in the 7th place position behind Medaglia, but 1 minute and 14 seconds back of Medaglia. So we've got the top 5, top 6 actually, relatively close together.
Grant Baylor 4.7 seconds behind Caleb Russell right now.
And look who just checked in there also. Why don't you refresh that screen? Corey Buttrick.
Oh, man.
Up to well, again, still in 9th place and only 10 seconds behind Baylor.
Yep. That's a good ride. We're talking some big names up there. And think about the names we're talking about. How deep is the talent field right now in the top 10? Whenever you look at it, any one of the riders we talk about could be riding the top 3 right now.
Yeah, absolutely. The Sexy 1 class right now is just, it's so strong. And, you know, the guy leading the way right now in the XC2 class, here's the man, Jason Thomas. But, Rodney, look right off his rear wheel. Who's that? Oh, there he is, Nick Davis. You could slip a sheet of paper between these guys, it seems like, all day long.
So Jason Thomas actually checked in 7th place overall after time adjustments, I believe. And Nick Davis is now 8th place overall. That drops Caleb Russell now back to the 9th place position overall. And rounding out the top 10 then would be Grant Baylor. So it's Sipes, Duval, Strang, Bach, and DeLong, your top 5. Medaglia, Thomas, Davis, and Russell and Baylor for your top 10. That's in the overall. And, of course, that's going to play some factors, I think, in our championship as well. And with 3 laps down, we're looking at 1 hour and 13 and a half minutes, or excuse me, 3 laps down, working on lap 4, 1 hour and 13 and a half minutes into this race. GNCC Live continues from the Parts Unlimited Unadilla GNCC after this.
The Sunstar Work Z rear sprocket is made of stainless steel, making it 3 times more durable than a standard steel sprocket. Team it with the 520 XTG triple guard sealed ring chain with 3 lubrication pools per side. Durability in the toughest conditions.
And welcome back to GNCC Live on RacerTV.com. It's the Parts Unlimited Unadilla GNCC. And we're taking a look at some of the great Moto Teams merchandise, the official merchandise of GNCC Racing. You can pick yours up. This weekend, we're featuring on the event t-shirt Chris Forge on the ATV side of things. And Josh Strang, who currently leads this race, featured on the 2-wheel t-shirt. Now, if you are at home watching RacerTV.com and you won an event t-shirt of your own, Johnny, you can get one, man, believe it or not. Just go into GNCCRacing.com Click up on the top tabs there, and you'll find a tab that once you drop it down, and it'll tell you how to get all the information that you need to order what you want there online. Hats, T-shirts, sweatshirts, you name it. All the items are available right there online, GNCCRacing.com.
Hey, you can't beat some cool GNCC stuff. I always, all the traveling we do, and it's amazing how many people recognize this series, and, they always ask, hey, where can I get some gear? I can't make it out to the races. My son, my daughter, my aunt, my uncle, my dog. I need a T-shirt. I need some hats. Well, there's your answer. You just check it all out there, and you can get it all online.
I'll tell you some interesting facts about Unadilla include this is our 10th year, marks our 10th year, the 11th running, as we were established back here at Unadilla in 2005. The Unadilla Raceway has been hosting motocross races since the late 1960s, and also this event in particular here is co-sanctioned with our friends in the Western New York Off-Road Association, aka WINOA, and these folks help bring out these amazing crowds that we're talking about. Unadilla is one of the biggest GNCCs on the circuit and has often sets attendance records. In 2014, we set the record for the largest rider attendance in the 39 history of GNCC racing with 2,076 unique ATV and motorcycle race entries. Today, we actually bested that. We have 2,221 riders that have signed up for today's event, and we're trying right now to determine whether or not that's more or just slightly less than last year's Indiana round, which I think was just a handful more riders than that. So if it's not the biggest in history, once again, it's come very close. It's the biggest. We've seen the largest amount of riders in that morning class race with 825. That for sure is certainly record-breaking.
Yeah, because I think the previous record for one individual race was last year at Ironman. It was here, it was just over 700.
Right.
Then last year at Ironman, I believe it was 770. So to do what was it today, 820?
825.
825 riders, that's phenomenal. There's, series around the world that don't get that many riders in a year, let alone in 1-2 hours race. So, it says a lot about the fact that GNCC is, in fact, the largest, best, unconditionally greatest series in America and the greatest off-road series in the world in terms of not only competitors but fans. So it's and that's why we see so many. We talked about the international flair. We've obviously talked a lot about 6 days today, but these guys are coming over here because they want to race here because they say, how do you guys do it?
Yeah.
We're having a hard time getting fans come out to our races, and you guys are getting 2,200 riders in one day.
Yeah, that's for sure. Hey, speaking of international flavor, we've had a couple of, several international riders that race the GNCC here, but we've had one international rider that has won 2 times here, and actually only 2 people have multiple wins here at Unadilla Raceway. They are, can you guess?
Only 2 riders that have multiple wins here. I'm going to have to say, are they both international?
One is international, one is homegrown.
Okay, I'm going to have to say Thad Duvall. And, oh no, I guess I'm wrong on that one. It's obviously either Juha or David Knight. One of those two. I don't know which. I would guess possibly David Knight.
David Knight in 2007 and 2008.
And then I guess Caleb Russell, I'm sure, has at least 2 here.
At least 2 in 13 and 14, the last 2 years. So there are only 2 repeat winners on the starting line. And here's another interesting fact. Do you realize that only, I believe, 1 pro rider, and he's not even racing today, was here lined up in 2005, and if he was here signed up, it would be Charlie Mullins would be the only pro rider that was riding XC1 Pro during that time. That's what that says.
Whoa. I believe you mean on the bike side of things.
Yes, on the bike side of things. Yes, it's a whole different story on the ATV side of things.
These ATV guys stick around forever.
Yeah, they do. You guys, obviously you're good people, man, and you need to stick around. Hey, here's some more interesting stuff. All right, looks like we might have missed our leaders at the 3-mile mark, but Johnny, we're going to go back and watch this again. We do have it on replay. So we'll be...
It looks like there's our 4th place rider, Chris Bach, and that is live. We're going to get a replay here of the top 3 coming through, so we'll be able to see. Now, wait a minute. Okay, that was Andrew DeLong. I got a little nervous there. And right, here's the replay coming in. Looks like Josh Strang back out front, according to what our producer Jason Hooper's telling us. Very soon. And there he is, Josh Strang back out front. And in the second place position, that is Thad Duvall on the left. We see that little bit of flash of the high-vis gear, and then Sipes on the outside. So there's the top three shaken up yet again. So
now that was actually pretty close, to be honest with you. Remember how far they were starting to stretch out? It looked like it was starting to gap a little bit, but it looks like they are starting to tighten back up.
But then again, we saw Strang was in third when we saw them last because he had fueled. So he was able to fuel and catch and pass both those guys and take over the lead. So he made up that 7-second deficit and has a 4 or 5 second lead. So he's Josh Strang really on the gas here.
Wow, I forgot about that. You're right. Looking at this right now, he was been 7.3 and 1.8, so he would have been almost 8.5 seconds out of first place to make up that time to get around Thad Duvall and also Ryan Sipes. Man on a mission. Wow. I guess Josh Strang has something to prove to himself and to a lot of other folks. You know, he's really disappointed being in the position that he's in. He got injured earlier in the year, and whoa, here we go. What's this? This is out on the motocross track, and here comes, that is over Sky Shot. There's
Josh Strang with the lead. Here comes second place. Ryan Sipes absolutely forgot to let off and just launched it between two riders. There he is. There. Yep, there's Sipes in the second place spot as he doubles in there. He's the only rider I've seen do that so far. Not to say that somebody else isn't, but I just haven't seen it. Thad Duvall should be, is that Strang there? It's so hard to tell with these shadows and on the screen, but it almost looks as though Sipes may have caught up to Strang. I don't know how that would be possible, but it looked like he was on the rear wheel of Strang then.
Wow. So we'll catch him again here coming up, I believe, somewhere around the 7-mile marker, if I'm not mistaken, Johnny. So give him a couple minutes. We'll know a little bit more about whether or not that was Strang having that issue there that allowed that to actually close up that gap.
And now we see Chris Bach working his way through. Andrew DeLong on his rear wheel, so that should be our 4th and 5th place riders. And again, these guys are going to send the sky shot and launch it skyward. Andrew DeLong, he's a woods guy, no whip, no style, but he gets over it, doesn't lose any time, and hammers down. And Bach working his way through the rollers, doubling up through there. These two have hooked up today and been pushing each other, and again, they're about, when we last checked in, it looked like they were about 28 seconds behind was Chris Bach of Josh Strang. So he had, from the second lap to the third lap, he had actually made up a little bit of ground, but was still giving up, about 30 seconds to that lead trio. So we're going to have to see if those guys, Bach and DeLong, can push each other to get up there in contention for a podium today.
So right now, as we watch this race, an hour and now about 23 minutes into the battle, we are seeing that things are settling in, and as they do continue to settle, we're reaching that kind of midway point of the race, Johnny, and this is kind of sometimes where we see the riders, things just kind of come to what seems like not necessarily a lull, but kind of just like they kind of ride an even keel for just a little bit before they get that final push coming up probably here within the next half hour or so. They'll start that push in the final hour.
Well, 3 hours of racing, Rodney, is a long time, and for these guys, obviously they train incessantly. They're in great physical condition, but mentally to keep yourself, especially on a track like this, we've talked about how it's slick, there's tree roots, there's logs, there's all kinds of obstacles out in those woods, in addition to a record number of riders. As we see Caleb Russell working his way through, looks like right on the rear wheel of possibly Grant Baylor. Looked like one of the Yamaha guys there in front of him, and that is Grant Baylor. So it looks like Grant Baylor's taking over the 7th place spot, Caleb Russell in 8th. So these guys, this is basically your championship battle that you're watching on screen right now. Grant Baylor needs to beat Caleb Russell by 14 points to keep this championship alive, but he needs to start by getting ahead of him, and he's done that now. So all he needs to do is find a way to stretch out another 13 points, and if he can do that, he can keep this championship alive at least for one more round. But Caleb Russell's managing this gap very well right now. There we see, looks like Jordan Ashburn would be our 9th place rider, working his way through the motocross section here on the Unadilla Valley Sports Center course. What a great opportunity for these guys to be, and all the amateurs also. This track is not open any time of the year except for the for the national, for the outdoor MX national, and for these guys, especially these local riders from New York who come here, they watch this race. To be able to get out there and spin laps on this track is such a cool opportunity.
Well, they also do it for the Mountain Dew ATV Motocross Championships. We've been coming here, I think, since about 2005 or 2006 also. And it's, believe it or not, become a long tenure. It's hard to believe how quick time goes by. I know. I sat there, Johnny looked real funny, and I imagine how I felt whenever I realized we've been coming here that long. But, wow, you know, and that's what I was talking about. You know, we talk about the history that's here, but GNCC is a huge part of that history now, and what's really great is every year we write something new about the history books of GNCC.
Yeah, and here
There's
we see
Ricky Russell, isn't it?
Oh! Ricky Russell goes down hard. And that
Wow.
was Trevor Bollinger there behind him, and those guys were running, looked like 7th and 8th. They were pretty far up there within that XC2. It looked like he clipped that white corner marker pole and hit the deck pretty hard there.
Wow, tough break for Ricky. And Ricky, talked to him today. He was he had a really good summer. He said he got to go back home to the great state of Washington, did some local races there, and then whenever he came back, he was training and riding with one of the Yamaha teammates, actually from the Range Riding University team there of 123 of Austin Lee. They did some training and riding together. And Ricky Russell said coming into this race he was feeling pretty good. He was looking pretty good too. And then I guess that was a pretty impressive crash also. Let's take a look at that again.
Yeah, it looks like he's coming in. It looks like that might be Jesse Grom there in front of him, or one of the Beta riders, and he just loses the rear end, and he catches that pole with the right handguard, and it looked like it ripped the rear fender completely off. There we see Chris Douglas working his way over the sky shot back to a live shot there. Judging by the sounds I'm hearing on the moto track, I think our leaders might have just worked their way off of the opposite side of the moto track, because I heard some really aggressive 450 and 350cc machines hard on the gas.
No doubt, and that is pushing them closer to the conclusion of lap number 4, in which we are working on at near an hour and a half into this. We're going to take a look here shortly at our Mid-State Chevy Midway report. But before we do that, you know, one thing that we always talk about, Johnny, is our
that's our international Beta rider there. I'm sorry to cut you off, Rodney. I don't exactly know his name, but he's one of our XC1 guys visiting from, you can go to the XC1 there and take a look. Our producer knows how to say his name, but I don't. It's Oriol Maitna, and he's from Spain. He's here visiting with the American Beta team. Looks like he's completed 3 laps. He's in 14th position. It looks like he's not too far behind Chris Douglas there for that 13th spot. So he's, I believe this is his first GNCC ever. So a little bit of international flair, traveling all the way here from Spain.
And as we were saying there just a moment ago, Johnny, a lot of times we keep an eye on the top amateurs. I was watching that a little bit ago. We had Jason Langenbach and Anthony Stone being the top contenders. They were as far back as 36 and 37. Now Anthony Stone is 30th overall on the 552 out of Reidsville, West Virginia. He's your 258 class leader. He's 30th overall top amateur right now. Jason Langenbach out of Clarksburg, Massachusetts, one of the East Coasters over here, the 395. He's 32nd place overall. So right now it's looking like the top amateur could come up between those two guys. And it'd be pretty neat, I think. Can you imagine Jason Langenbach being able to capture the top amateur honors today? How excited he would be able to do that here at the National like that?
Absolutely, and we see that quite a bit with, you know, as the series travels to different parts of the country, you see the local boys, the hometown boys get a little bit of extra swagger. You know, they've got the fans here, they've got the friends and family, and everybody cheering them on, and it seems to make everybody push a little bit harder, whether it's an XC1 rider or all the way back to the C classes. But again, that amateur overall is a very coveted award here at GNCC Racing, and these guys, you know, of all the guys, there's 2,200 riders over the course of this weekend, and there's basically, you know, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 professionals between the XC1 and XC2 class on bikes, and around the same number on quads, and all the rest are amateurs. So to be the top amateur within that race is a huge honor, and you know, really can attract the eye of some potential sponsors and potential supporters for the future.
You know, that's a good point that you bring up there. You know, as we head into the final leg of 2015, you know, we look at it from an aspect of it's round 10, 11, 12, and 13, and we get to see this great championship. While we look at that from this side of things, riders, and you probably know exactly what I'm talking about because you're in that position and boat. riders at this point are not only thinking about the end of the championship, but what they're thinking about is how can I be impressive here late in the year to draw the attention of potential sponsors to help me in my efforts coming up next season.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and it's a rough and tumble world out there, and there's not a whole lot of rides available. But for them to be able to, you know, to again get that attention, get potential people looking at them and say, you know, hey, I'd like a little support for next year. And we've seen so many times it just takes that one breakthrough ride. So the overall amateur is often the guy that really does get that attention, you know, in potentially getting a ride for the XC2 or maybe even the XC1 class.
Yes, exactly. And it goes across the board. I mean, everybody's looking for new help and looking for help and everything for the upcoming season. So everybody wants to do their best. And looking down through some of these fun facts that we compiled leading into this weekend, I'm going to come up. 7 of the 10 previous Unadilla motorcycle winners have gone on to claim the GNCC championship this season. And that is Ryan Sipes moving back into the number 1 spot right there. And though it's a snowball's chance, Johnny, that's a good statistic for Ryan Sipes if he's able to pull this win off today.
Yeah, so we should see a little bit of a shakeup here because as near as we could tell, Ryan Sipes and Thad Duvall did not pull into their pits in the VP Fuels Pro Row. We see Fred Andrews standing on the corner there. Certainly he is going to be signaling Thad Duvall into the KR4 FAR Rocky Mountain MC pits. There we see Maggie, Thad's girlfriend, and they're ready to go. Bad Chad with the gas can. There we see Ryan Sipes' mom and his crew there with the fuel jugs ready. So we expect to see both of those guys stopping. Ryan Sipes blows past his pit. They have to come running after him. Apparently he did not realize he needed to stop there. There goes Josh Strang, takes the lead. Josh Strang back into the lead. Ryan Sipes gets some fresh goggles, gets a little bit of fuel. He's having a discussion with his pit crew there. He wanted a water bottle. He's got that now, and Thad Duvall takes over the 2nd place spot. Ryan Sipes back into 3rd, so the shuffle up continues.
Yeah, and I think Ryan Sipes is pushing there, trying to get as much of a comfort zone, trying to get out front, and trying to alleviate any of this right here, as much of this as possible with Josh Strang taking over the lead because he knew it was going to happen. He said, it's now I got to do some damage control, and actually that might have been a pretty good move on behalf of Ryan Sipes because it could save him a lot in the end of this race.
1 hour and 32 minutes, 18 seconds for Josh Strang into this race. So just past halfway, he checks in. And what I saw in that pit stop, though, and what I think we're going to see unfold now, Josh Strang has a little bit of breathing room. He's going to sprint and see if he can pull a gap right now. But Ryan Sipes, to me, looked incredibly composed in that pit. And that tells me a lot. It tells me that he's comfortable. He doesn't feel rushed. He doesn't feel at all pressured. Now we see Chris Bach, our 4th place rider, checking in. He's in the JCR pits, going to take a splash of fuel, some fresh 100% goggles, and his crew giving him a few words of wisdom. He is still in the 4th place spot. There we see our 5th place rider in the back of our screen. There's Andrew DeLong, Joey Maurer on the fuel jug. They give him a little bit of extra hit for a top off. He takes a water bottle and he's on the way. So our top 5 are all pitted and all through the VP Fuels Pro Row. Interesting to note, Rodney, Josh Strang stopped on the 3rd lap rather than the 4th. And if this turns out to be a 7 or an 8 lap race, Josh Strang may very possibly have to hit the VP Fuels Pro Row for a splash of gas to make it to the finish.
Yeah, you got to wonder then, you know, was that early pit stop strategy worth it, or was it even an early strategy? Maybe he has intentions of stopping more than once from the get-go. You never can tell.
Yeah, it's hard to know with these guys. You know, everybody has a different strategy. Some guys, I know, plan their fuel stops around when they think they're going to need goggles and possibly going to need a drink. Other guys, they're not coming into the pits unless they need fuel. It really just depends on each individual rider.
So right now, 1 hour and 33 minutes into this race, Josh Strang, Thad Duvall, 13 seconds back. Ryan Sipes, 2.5 seconds back. Chris Bach is checked in now with 4 laps complete. 1 minute and 18 seconds off pace with Andrew DeLong, 0.172. So a 1/10 of a second, basically, is what DeLong was behind Chris Bach there as they checked in at the end of lap number 4.
And here we see Caleb Russell in the VP Pro Row. We did see Tyler Medaglia check through just a moment ago. There goes Grant Baylor back around Caleb Russell. We've seen those two swap back and forth. That is basically your virtual championship battle. Those are the two riders, first and second in points right now. Caleb Russell needing to leave here today, as we talked about earlier, Rodney, with 90 points over Grant Baylor. As they run right now, he had 104 points coming into this race. With Grant Baylor one position ahead of him, that would give him 103 points over Grant Baylor at the end of the day today if things were to finish right now, which would mean Caleb Russell would be your 2015 GNCC champion the third consecutive time. So he's doing what he needs to do, and he's doing it with quite a bit of confidence right now.
For sure, and he is riding that wave. You know, you can't, I mean, unless you're a trained individual, you never know that he was injured. Is that Nick Davis, I believe, in and out of the pro pits now?
Nick Davis was actually leading as they came into the VP Fuels Pro Row, but it appears Jason Thomas made the stop. Jason Thomas would be pitting on the second part right here, so no way to know for sure if Thomas stopped. Looks like he's got a bottle. There is Thomas. He's got a water bottle, so I don't know if he just grabbed that on the go or if he actually did take fuel. But Jason Thomas now back into the lead. These guys have swapped it back and forth, back and forth. As we check in there, he was 7th overall last lap. We'll see where Thomas is now. Looks like he is still in that 7th place position. And checking in just behind him is Nick Davis, showing he hasn't checked in yet. If we refresh that now, I believe he has.
Yep.
Looks like he is 9th place overall, with Grant Baylor in between them in that 8th place spot.
Wow, so Davis riding his rails out there right now, and I believe Jason Thomas actually picking up where he left off as well, heading into the summer break. Had a chance to talk with Jason there yesterday, and one of the most colorful and intriguing individuals I think I've ever talked to. He always good for a laugh, and you know, even in his most serious moments, he's always lighthearted in some way, shape, or form. But he said, you know, he was really disappointed that he didn't get a chance to go to the ISDE this year. So he's been home training and pushing, and really just trying to elevate his performance levels over the course of those few weeks that those guys were over there. But yeah, I mean, he was really frustrated that he didn't get picked by the folks back in England to go to the ISDE. So he's coming out here and I think taking it out on the racetrack today.
You know, honestly, Rodney, I've never really had much of a relationship with Jason, and at Snowshoe we actually hung out on Sunday night after the race, and I had a very different view of Jason Thomas after that evening. Jason Thomas, very outspoken. He says things that others won't, for better or for worse, but what I learned a little bit from hanging out with Jason that night was he doesn't pull any punches about it. He doesn't apologize later. He doesn't change his mind, and he doesn't care if people think differently of him because he is that way. And although that's the exact polar opposite of me, I have a bit of respect for that in a way. You know, the fact that he's willing to say what's on his mind, whether you think it's right or wrong, that's his opinion. And if you don't like it, he'll tell you exactly where to go.
Yeah, you're right.
And he did that several times that night. And has done that several times over the past several years. And, you know, like him or hate him, Jason Thomas is a force on the racetrack. He has been for many years. You know, his somewhat controversial decision to run XC2 this year, and I know he's been shopping around on social media saying, hey, I don't have a ride for next year. Based on the rule change.
He's not riding factory beta next year?
I don't know. I stay away from all that kind of stuff. But,
no,
that
was a social media joke that he...
yes, I know. Jason Thomas, you know, according to the rules, will have to move up to XC1 next year after coming back, having won the XC2 championship in the past. Ran XC1 for his year, did not have the season he was looking for, came back leading this championship again with a pretty sizable margin over second place. All things considered, possibly on the way to his second championship in that class. And, you know, he's shopping around looking for a ride for next year.
Yeah, and the reason, you know, that he didn't have the success in the XC1 class, I think there were some underlying issues that were happening there that year. And that was a good thing to be able to go back and reset for the XC2 Pro Lights class and then go back at it again under more healthy conditions, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. So, but yeah, interesting guy. And as we're sitting here, actually see our WXC winner from yesterday, Kate Osborne, and Marty Christofferson, the XC2 winner from yesterday, walking by. They're looking around. They don't know where we're talking from. But so those are some New Yorkers right there. And
the Richford Rocket.
We were talking the Richford Rocket. We were talking about that a little bit earlier with the hometown rides, and Marty yesterday with the second place position in that XC2 class, and Kate with her first ever WXC win.
That's
so
awesome.
great rides for those guys, and they're here checking out some bike action today.
Yep, no doubt, and getting a great show in the process as Josh Strain continues to lead. Thad Duvall, Ryan Sipes, Chris Bach in fourth, Andrew DeLong rounding out fifth place. Then Medaglia is your sixth place ride. Overall in time adjustments, Jason Thomas running in seventh, Grant Baylor is eighth, Nick Davis is ninth. He's second in the XC2 Pro Lights class, and Caleb Russell rounds out the top 10 overall, according to timing and scoring after 4 laps. And with that, we're going to go ahead and take a look at our Mid-State Chevy Midway report. I believe we're going to have a couple moments here, and we'll do that. So I want to say thanks to Mid-State Chevrolet, located at the Flatwood exits off I-79 in the heart of West Virginia there. And, of course, they stack them deep, they sell them cheap, and I'm telling you, friends, it's the home of your next new car, truck, or van. Just go on to midstatechevy.com. Do a little shopping around, you'll find out what I'm talking about. And then whenever you talk to them, say, hey, I'm part of the GNCC Racing Nation. You'll get that special GNCC Love deal. So taking a look now at the XC2 Pro Lights class, as we looked at most of that XC1. We'll go to XC2 Pro Lights. Jason Thomas, Nick Davis 1 and 2, 12 seconds separated the two. They had a 1 and 2 second lead over the 19 of Jesse Grom. Grom then another 19 seconds ahead of Trevor Bollinger, who's letting the hair grow out there. He's kind of got that Samson thing going on, the 118. He told me, he says he likes to let the hair wave out of the back of the helmet because the more it waves, that's how fast he knows he's going. 228, Scott, he said it, not me. 228, Scott Grills out of Wellington, Ohio, running in the number 5 spot. 212, Ricky Russell from Duval, Washington. We watched him take a nasty get off down there a few minutes ago, so he's probably dropped back a few positions, but at last check, he was running 6th. Tegan Temple, the numbers 525 and 7th. Craig DeLong in 8th aboard the 18. Austin Lee, the 123 in 9th. And the 459 of Dylan McRitchie rounded out the top 10 XC2 Pro Lights. Going now to our next class, as far as amateurs are concerned, in the Mid-State Chevy Midway report, Jason Langenbach out of Clarksburg, Mass., one of the top contenders for an overall top amateur spot today, leading by 3 minutes 32 seconds over Nicholas Cordana. Cordana, the 467 from Cheshire, Massachusetts. In the number 3 spot, the number 30 is Zach Hayes from Sumter, South Carolina, only about 3 seconds back. Grant Marriott, the 375 from Ulster, PA, is 4th. 579, Alex Witkowski out of North Liberty, Indiana, rounds out the top 5. And Dylan Rash, 419 in 6th and 7th of this Open A class. The 545 of Dallas Micah. 8th spot, the 59, Nathan Thornhill. 9th place, the 381, Marcus Scott Cornell. And rounding out the top 10, the 454 of Trevor Cobb. That's your Open A. Next, we take a look at 250A. And Anthony Stone, the rider that is in contention as well from this class for the top amateur overall efforts, running in 30th overall at the moment. A 1 minute 5 second lead over second place in this class. The number 330 of Vance Francis from Bodyman, Kentucky. The number 50 of Mason Atherton from Clarion, Pennsylvania, running in 3rd. 415, Sean Benhart from Smithfield, Virginia. He's 4th, 5th, 355. Dustin Simpson out of Mount Pleasant, North Carolina. Then 6th through 10th, it's the 101, Chris Vendetti in 6th, and 7th, the 437 of Hunter Neuwirth. 8th spot, the 450, Matthew Keeper. 9th place, the 412, Mark Horesco. And rounding out the top 10, Thorn Devlin, the number 824. That was your 250A top 10. As we check in next with the 200A top 10, Kyle Tino, the 377 from Phillipsburg, New Jersey, running out front there, 1 minute and 7 seconds ahead of the 266 of Craig Shea out of Chepachet, Rhode Island. Then we've got the 502 of Josh Kanamo out of West Mephalda, Massachusetts, in the number 3 spot. We've got 436 Andrew Gross out of Hancock, New York, in 4th. If I'm not mistaken, he might have grabbed the whole shot in that class. Peter Walk, the 546, is 5th out of East Hampton, Connecticut. In 6th place, 440, Owen Geese out of Harwington, Connecticut. 7th place, the 351, Kevin Knott from Middleborough, Massachusetts. 8th spot, the 433 of Matt Conley from Plainville, Massachusetts. And Corning, New York is home to Carter Calkins, the 505 and 9th. Rounding out the top 10, the 500 of Michael Maresca from Hanawa Falls, New York. Wow. All those names that I read, the top 8 are all riders that we do not see on a normal basis. They're all New Jersey, basically the Northeast riders, these New England riders. You got New Jersey, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, New York, Connecticut, all being represented there in the top 8 of the 200A class. Welcome to the GNCC Racing Nation, boys. Next class we're going to be taking a look at, the Mid-State Chevy Midway Report, is the 4-stroke A Lights class, and it's Tyler Brand of the 421 from Terre Haute, West Virginia, with a lead in this one, about 2.9 seconds, so less than 3 seconds separating he and Jake Froman, who got the early lead in this, aboard the 862 from Linville, Indiana, riding on his Suzuki. They've got a 43-second lead now over the 704 of Tristan Landrum from Nelsonville, Ohio. Blake Lannard, the number 468, runs fourth. Hunter Shelton out of Hartford, Tennessee, rounds out your top 5 aboard the 206. By the way, Leonard's from parts unknown. 6th place, the 45, Braxton McGee from Bullville, North Carolina. The 100 of Josh Lee is 7th. 8th is the 425, Michael Ancalada. 9th place, Christopher McManus on the 125, and Jeremy Daudelin, the 567, rounds out your top 10. Junior AB 25-plus class now, Aaron Cox on the 482 out of New Cumberland, West Virginia, with a 3-minute, 39-second lead over Chris Crispin. Chris got the whole shot in this one on the 407 out of Plymouth, Mass. Then it's Joseph McCarty, the 44 from Mount Clair, West Virginia. 4th place, 493, Eric Grassi out of Sagamore, Massachusetts. 5th place, the 535, A.J. Conforti from Clinton Corners, New York. Then we got 473, Brandon Peterson from Albemarle, North Carolina. 368 is Tom Lang. 8th place, 492 of Adam Clark. 9th place, 443 is William Bryan. And 10th place, Jake Dennis, the 516. That's your Junior AB 25-plus class. As we look next at the Vet A 30-plus class, Anthony Howe out of Endicott, New York, the 532 with a 2-minute and 8-second lead over Craig Volkemer, the 555. The 572 in 3rd place is Nathan Alring out of Cincinnati, Ohio. In the number 3, make that 4 spot, Joe Marsh on the 35 out of Pittsburgh. Jesse Arsenault from Coventry, Connecticut, the 484 is 5th. Then the 360 of Alex Amarico is 6th place. 7th place, 551, Fabian Barala. 8th place, 498, Matthew Constant. 9th place, the 86 of Big Jim Steiner. And rounding out the top 10, the 310 of Eddie Lojak Jr., who is the son of a 9-time GNCC champion. Early days, of course, we're talking about Eddie Lojak Sr., but Junior back in the number 10 spot of the Vet A class. By the way, the 86 of Big Jim Steiner out of Van Eden, New York, he and his daughter, Samantha Steiner, she's racing one of the afternoon classes as well as a WXC class earlier this morning. His son, Little Timmy Steiner, as always like to call him, and also Little Jim, which is bigger than Big Jim, but Little Jim Steiner is also out there in that XC2 Pro Lights class. There are a father, 2 sons, and a daughter racing this 3-hour race today, and just shows you just how much of a family sport this is, and to see the entire family out there competing like that all at the same time is pretty cool. And I think there's a little bet going on between Sis and Timmy there. Little Sammy and Little Timmy are looking to see who's going to be doing better in the overall, so that's going to be a fun one to watch. Senior 840-plus class in this Mid-State Chevy report, we got Paul Petron, the 703 out of Calgary, Canada, in the number 1 spot. 2-minute, 27-second lead over the 410 Billy Schlack from Mechanicsville, Maryland. 496 Wayne Greenwicks out of Newton, New Jersey is 3rd. 4th place, 373 Bill Atkinson out of Pottsville, Pennsylvania. 5th place, 746 Todd Eli from Palmer, Massachusetts. 6th place, 714 Mark Richland from Millbury, Massachusetts. 7th place, 356 Charles Mornan from Dunbarton, New Hampshire. Then it's 8th place, 323 Joel Grover from Odessa, New York. 9th place, the 393 of Mark Davis from Cortland, New York. And 10th place, the 463 of Rob Brown. Massachusetts is where he hails from. That's your Senior 840-plus class. Next, we take a look at the Open B class. Ted Chesbro from Wimbraham, Massachusetts. Wimbraham, Massachusetts. Never heard of it, but hey, you know what? A minute 51-second lead is what Ted Chesbro from Wilbraham, Massachusetts has a lead over that 851 of Dustin Stanley, your 2nd place rider out of Clarksburg, West Virginia. Jobel Coronado, beta rider, number 402, is in the number 3 spot from parts unknown there. 357. I'm going to have to say that might be one of the Spanish riders here with us also. But Damon Mornan, the 357 out of Dunbarton, New Hampshire, is running 4th. The 519 Ryan McManus from Nelsonville, Ohio, is 5th. In 6th place in the Open B class, the 290 of Bills of Indy. 7th place, the 625 Michael Hall. 8th place, 347 Dylan Recchia. 9th place, the 214 of Argo Kermy. And rounding out the top 10, the 427 Nicholas Giannetti. By the way, Argo, and I forgot his brother's name, but he and his brother both making their way over from England to go racing GNCC this weekend. It's something that they've dreamed about. and something they saved for and pushed to do to be able to come here and race this Unadilla GNCC. So we want to welcome the Kermy brothers out here with us this weekend to the great Unadilla. Now, as we look next, that was the Open B class. The 250B class we look at in the Mid-State Chevy Midway Report. Brewer Conley, the 614 from Lexington, South Carolina, 17-second lead over Cole Madison, the 332 from Inman, South Carolina. Ryan Klementowski, another 2 minutes and 30 seconds back on the 429 and third. Kobe Beckert, the 521 from Zanesville, Ohio. Fifth place, 396. Caleb Robert out of Clarksburg, Massachusetts. Then in sixth place, 411, Jordan Artabani. Seventh place, the 821 is Scott Greibel. Eighth spot, 428, Evan Gianta. Ninth place, 457, Little Timmy Steiner, whom we were talking about there. That's the young man, son of Big Jim Steiner there. And rounding out the top 10 is the 458 of Coleman Brinson in that 250B class. Next class, we take a look at the 200B class. And Cameron Sisk out of Morganton, North Carolina, the number 240 of the minute and 39-second lead over Jordan Purvis, the 465 from Loma, New York. Colton Cupp, the 554 out of Morgantown, West Virginia, runs third. The 466 of Zach Church from Hanoia Falls, New York, is fourth. Caleb Williams from Jefferson, PA, the 540 in fifth. 420, Ian Howells, who was battling for a top spot in that second turn, he runs sixth. The 485, Theo Levely, is seventh. 320, Z71, Adam Parker is eighth. 491, Tyler Rochelot is ninth, and Brock Post, the 534, rounds out your top 10. Four-stroke B lights class, the 838 of Tyler Murray out of Groton, New York, your leader by 7 minutes. That has to be the biggest lead we see out there. 7 minutes, 52 seconds after 2 laps of racing over the 476 of Adam Lewis out of Carmichael's, PA. 363, Ben Murdoch from Groton, New York, is third. Fourth place, 818, Jeremy Wolf from Lee, Massachusetts. Trey Jefferson, the 283 from Westminster, South Carolina, is fifth. Drew Bolton, the 517 from Mooresville, North Carolina, 6th. Michael Tetlow out of Lebanon, Junction, Kentucky, the 405, rounds out the top and the 7 in the four-stroke B lights class. Next class going to be the Bet B30 Plus class with Jeremy Dexter leading by 1 minute and 2 seconds over the 919 of Scott Dallin. Dexter out of Nelsonville, Ohio. Dallin out of the Waynesburg, Pennsylvania area, while the 506 of Ailson Roberio out of Bridgeport, Connecticut runs 1 minute and 13 seconds back to the number 3 spot. The 274 Mac Jankovic, Randolph, New Jersey, is where he calls home, only a second off the pace of Roberio. In 5th place, the 195 Sean Morris from Waynesburg, Pennsylvania, running a couple minutes back there. In 6th place, 364 is Joseph Taylor. 7th, the 353 of Oliver Rando. 8th spot, 489 Christopher Larkin. 9th place, Peter Acklin, rounding out the top 10, the 518 of Mike DeSimone. And I believe that brings us to the end of our Mid-State Chevy Midway Report with one more class. We've got the Senior 40-plus class, Jeremy Parsons out of Vesdale, New York, the 523 leading. The 564 of Jeff Lehue out of Syracuse, New York. 401, Jim Seaman out of Trumansburg, New York, is third. Gene Swidwell, the 549 out of Sarver, PA, is fourth. Will Gribben out of Mays Landing, New Jersey, rounds out your top 5. Then 6th, the 435, Christopher Gross. 7th, the 550 of Aaron Gibson. 8th, the 477, Don Mosier. 9th place, 651, Leon Whitaver. And rounding out the top 10, the 434 of Jeff Bacon. That's your Senior B 40-plus class, and that is your Mid-State Chevy Midway Report. As we say thanks to our friends at Mid-State Chevrolet, located at midstatechevy.com on the World Wide Web, and at the Flatwood exit there off of I-79 in the heart of West Virginia. Mid-State Chevrolet, stacking them deep and selling them cheap. Well, now 2 hours or an hour and 54 minutes as we approach the 2-hour mark of this race, and things continuing to roll along here as we'll try to get you updated in what's going on in the overall here this afternoon. Last report was the number 2 of Josh Strang continuing to lead Thad Duvall, the 989, with Ryan Sipes back in the number 3 position. Riders, we'll find out, are due in coming up soon, I believe. About 1.5 minutes, I believe, is what we're looking at. Maybe sooner. So those riders should be checking in through this section about any time. You'll be seeing our leader top this hill unless something has slowed these guys down, and it's a likelihood and a possibility with the amount of traffic on the short track today 314 riders may not seem like a whole lot, but when you take into account the close quarters that we have here at Unadilla, then it all of a sudden can become a much bigger factor than it normally would. There's our leaders going through the pro pits now, I believe, or so. So we're about a minute out. And I believe that is our leaders. Look at that. They are tightening up quite a bit as Josh Strang still holding on to the number 1 spot. Duvall and Sipes still nose to tail back there, it looks like. And Josh Strang gave him the 2-lap card. I was going to say an hour and 55 minutes into this one, so they're going to be probably running close to that 2:45 mark by the time it's all said and done. So 2-lap board just came out for Josh Strang, and that might be a big savior for him as far as fuel mileage and fuel is concerned here today. A 22:52 lap time. Thad Duvall checks in 17 seconds back with a 22:56 lap time, matching his lap time at 22:56 to 2:64 of Ryan Sipes. Sipes checks in 1.8 seconds behind Thad Duvall. A minute 18 is what separated the gap between 3rd and 4th back to Chris Bach at the end of lap number 5, now rolling into lap number 6. Going back through the history books here, trying to determine whether or not, and I had all the way back, I got it on my iPad, I think, maybe. But I had all the entire history, and I'm trying to remember if Josh Strang has ever won here before. I know he's probably come close a couple of times. But Josh, if nothing else, is likely on his way to, if nothing else, capturing his first win here at the Unadilla GNCC. Another monumental day for a monumental rider, and it's a great way to kick off the last part of the season for this rider, as he's been searching for that incentive and that little extra push and nudge that he's needed to elevate him to the level that he wants to achieve. And even he made the statement that he was disappointed that he was injured earlier in the year, that he might be able to play spoiler for the championship with Caleb's injury. And he also made the remark and statement that now that Caleb's out, he hopes that he can still beat him, or now that Caleb is injured, he hopes that he can still beat him, but that basically everyone, when they line up on that starting line, knows that they're going to be racing for 2nd place that day, except today, a little different story. They all had a little bit extra incentive. As Chris Bach rounds the corner now, Duvall is 17 seconds back, 1.8 seconds Ryan Sipes, and then another minute, and watch the official time here. They roll in another minute, and 2 minutes and 4 seconds now. Chris Bach, kind of hard to push when you don't see the carrot dangling ahead of you there. So Bach has settled into a 23:41 pace lap time, a 22:52 lap time for Josh Strang, a 23:41 lap time for Chris Bach. There comes Andrew DeLong, the number 6 machine, who, in talking with him earlier today, is still trying to become 100% from the early season issues that he was suffering from. He checks in on the number 5 spot, nearly 31 seconds behind Chris Bach now. Lap 5 being wrapped up as we speak. An hour and 59 minutes working on the 2-hour mark here with nearly an hour, at least 2 laps of racing left to go here at the Parts Unlimited Unadilla GNCC. It is Josh Strang, Thad Duvall, Ryan Sipes, Chris Bach, Andrew DeLong, 1st through 5th. GNCC Live continues after this.
The Sunstar Work C rear sprocket is made of stainless steel, making it 3 times more durable than a standard steel sprocket. Team it with the 520 XTG triple guard sealed ring chain with 3 lubrication pools per side. Durability in the toughest conditions. Scott's Performance, the only steering dampener with 21 Baja 1000 overall victories, introduces the new Scott's rubber submount. Easy to install at less than an hour in most cases, it features adjustable on-the-fly dampening to help reduce arm pump and fatigue. Come see what 25 years of experience building the best stabilizer can do at scottsonline.com.
And for anyone on hand here today, you need to check out the wonderful pizza vendor, the New York Pizza Company.
Oh,
Makes
yeah.
great pizza. I'm on slice number 2, according to our producer, Jason Hooper. That is apparently 2 slices too many today.
Now he wants to know where his is what it is. But, yeah, New York Pizzeria. I want to say thanks to Frankie and those guys for being on hands with us. And we're going back to a replay. It looks like, Johnny, we had some issues over in the pits. Bike stalled out, looks like.
Yeah, that's our Canadian rider, Tyler Medaglia. It looks like his crew is pushing. They're trying to bump start that thing. We can speculate that he may have come in and tried to get some fuel, and then that machine wouldn't refire. So they're getting him up to speed. He's giving it a bump start. He does get it fired, and he's off and going.
Well, good show by Medaglia again here today. As we checked in, he's still running in a top 10 position as far as the XC1 Pro class is concerned. He is outside the top 10 overall now, dropping to 11th with Nick Davis now leading Jason Thomas. Nick Davis is 8th place overall. Jason Thomas running in 9th place overall. There's 17.6 seconds that separate those two. And I think that you saw that coming, Johnny, because you could tell by the way that Nick was riding, and then all of a sudden there was a big change there. And we have now made confirmation that is the case.
Yeah, you know, with Nick Davis and Jason Thomas, it's we've talked about it a number of times today, and certainly over the course of the season. These guys are battling each other, they're pushing each other, and rare that you see any daylight at all between them. With Nick Davis being able to pull that little bit of a gap now, you have to wonder if he's going to be able to hold that for the next, what we've still got just about an hour of racing left. Now, we've seen the 2-lap curtain come out, meaning that these guys have only 2 more chances on a lot of these sections to really push themselves to try and pull that gap. And right now, Nick Davis has been able to do that. Whether or not he can hold it to the end, that's another thing. You can never count out Jason Thomas till the checkered flag flies.
That's for sure. And, you know, today, Johnny, we've talked about the records and numbers and everything. A big youth turnout this morning with 200 riders, 825 this morning at 10 o'clock. Had some really great racing out there today, too. And we had a chance to catch up both with our youth race overall winner and also our WXC winner earlier this morning.
It feels great to win here at Unadilla. Race went amazing. We were battling the whole, I don't even know how many laps we did, but every single lap it was either me, Hunter Williams, or Connor Smith in first. And it was a good race. They pushed me to my limits, and I'm wore out. Summer break went good. Just trained as much as I could. I couldn't really ride as much as I'd like to because we got rain every single day in Florida. But it feels good, you know. I feel strong. My endurance is good, and can't wait to get to the last 3 rounds.
Hey, this is Casey Martinez. We're out here at Unadilla, and I just wrapped up the race to win. And also overall, it went good. There's a lot of people out there on the track, which made it hard for passing and stuff. And the rain last night made it actually good conditions. It's going to be really good for the PM race, I think. And my summer break went great. I took some time off in the beginning and then jumped right back into training and wanted to make sure, you know, I was back up on top after that 3-month break. So I'm really happy being here today and the beautiful weather. And I can't thank GNCC Racing enough and my team, Factory, FMF, KTM for all their help. Thanks.
Yeah, some great battles out there this morning, Rodney. And, you know, the track conditions were pretty treacherous for those youth riders this morning. With the rain we had, all the dust that we had built up from yesterday turned into mud. You can see Jesse Ansley still having the mud in his eyes, but able to pull through despite the fact he's from Florida. You certainly wouldn't consider him a mud rider, but he got it done out there today. And then Casey doing the same in the WXC class with those girls putting on a heck of a show this morning. And the conditions have just getting better and better throughout the day.
You mentioned yesterday's dust, Johnny, and there was a lot of speculation, and I never did get a chance to talk with anyone about the failure that Adam McGill had at the end of yesterday's race. And I know there was a lot of speculation that it could have been dust and a number of other things. For anybody that was watching yesterday and watching today, I'm sure they're all wondering what exactly took place. Have you ever heard what exactly happened to Adam McGill's bike yesterday?
Just a lot of speculation, no actual facts. I know it was a motor issue. Don't know. Somebody had said he had dropped a valve and had punched a hole in the piston, but ultimately it looked like a bunch of fans stepped in and pushed his machine quite a ways to the finish. And I know things are still under review. Yesterday there's some questions whether or not exactly how that went down, so we'll have to wait in the coming days to see what the final ruling is on that. But as of the way things stand, he was able to finish a 9th place overall position, which ultimately swung the points lead from he had a 9-point lead coming into the weekend and left here with I believe it was an 11-point deficit when things were all said and done yesterday. But I don't know. Obviously, it could have been dust related. It was hard to say. I know my machine yesterday was choking and kept stalling with the filter being clogged up. I talked to a number of other guys who had similar issues, so we'll see how it all pans out once I'm sure they get home and get that machine torn apart. Maybe we'll have a little bit better insight on exactly what happened to Adam yesterday.
Appreciate that, and it'd be nice to find out what did happen. And right now we're seeing what's taking place here today on a Sunday at Unadilla's GNCC. We're watching mile marker number 3. And somehow or another, Austin Lee checked in with a 6th lap and all of a sudden took over the overall lead. But then all of a sudden it disappeared. I was like, we got a new leader.
Well, Austin's been riding great over the break, but I don't think quite good enough to get a lap up on everybody else.
Not that good anyway. I mean, it's
and
good.
Speaking of the guy that's got a leg up on everybody else, there's Josh Strang. No style this time. He's just on a mission. He wants to click these laps off. He wants to get a win. It's been a while since we've seen Josh Strang actually get a win. Well, it's been a while since we've seen anybody but Caleb Russell get a win. The only other rider to do so this year, Chris Bach at our earlier Tomahawk GNCC, also here in New York. So it seems that we most likely, judging by what we're seeing, we're going to see a first-time winner here today. Ryan Sipes still having fun, throwing that whip. Thad Duvall doing the same. It's interesting. You always see that it seems like these guys have a favorite or a more preferred way to whip. Seems like Ryan Sipes is more comfortable whipping his bike to the left, Thad Duvall the opposite, doing so to the right. So, maybe we'll have to ask Ryan Sipes afterwards if he's a lefty.
I was wondering if that had anything to do with it or not.
I can't whip a motorcycle, so I don't have any input on that whatsoever.
Do you whip a quad?
A little bit. It's just harder. They're quite heavy, but yeah, you can whip a quad. Thomas Brown and Chad Weenan and some of the motocross guys can do it quite a bit better. What's that?
Do you nay-nay?
Here, watch this. We got a replay, and we're going to see Ryan Sipes. That is the motocrosser style. He does that lean over.
Wow.
You see him. He shoves that knee into the radiator shroud there, shoves that bike around, brings it back, and lands it smoothly. But, and Thad Duvall, drain plug Thad. Yeah, if we're doing a style check here,
let's see
Ryan
which one was
Sipes may
flatter.
be in second place position, but Thad Duvall definitely wins the whip contest on lap 6. Yep, lap 6 at the Sky Shot. Give the nod to Thad Duvall.
Yeah, so maybe we ought to start giving style points at this race or something. Knocking off time or something like that.
Whoever throws the flattest whip gets a 1-second advantage at the end of the day. But, with the way the race has been today, that could be the difference between a win. We see Josh Strang, Ryan Sipes, Thad Duvall, all within just seconds of each other as they're working their way past the Sky Shot at the 5-mile marker. We will get to see them one more time as they're just below the finish, and then we'll actually watch them come in. What we will see is Ricky Tower with the white flag in hand, and that'll be the closing call for this race and give these guys one last 8-mile loop to get it all done.
That's true. We talk about Ryan Sipes, and we've talked a lot about his major accomplishment, Johnny, there at the ISDE a couple of weeks ago. It all began for him, and to be able to walk away with that overall win. I had a chance to talk to him about it earlier today. I've talked to a lot of other folks, man, and he's just definitely riding that wave of confidence that you were talking about there a few moments ago. I mean, it's just something that's continuing to flow over here to Unadilla today, I think.
Yeah, as watching from home and following it all on social media, seeing Ryan Sipes, and and how he's been riding, and he's just been progressing week in and week out here in GNCC. And now we see Chris Bach working his way through. We'll see if he gives us any style points and just a little bit of a whip. Bach's so tall, he has style even when he doesn't mean to.
Yeah, that was a
He does a body whip. But, yeah, going back to Ryan Sipes, you know, and that is not Andrew DeLong. It looked like DeLong for a while there was attached to Bach's rear wheel, but it looks like he's shaking him loose, at least for now. So we'll wait and we'll watch and see if we can catch a glimpse. There is Andrew DeLong. So there is that would be 5th place rider, Bach in 4th, DeLong in 5th, and still, oh no, that's Grant Baylor. Grant Baylor is hard on the gas and made up a bunch of time. Looks like he's into 5th place now as he smashed, almost loses it. Nearly stalls the machine. He cased hard there, came up over the handlebars, and there is DeLong there, now in 6th place. So those two have hooked up. We'll have to see if they can push themselves up to the rear wheel of the 4th place finisher, Bach. So Grant Baylor, we know he comes on hard at the end of the races.
Yeah, negative style points, though.
No style points whatsoever for Grant Baylor. He's never had style points a day in his life, but he gets the job done, and that's why those guys hired him over there, and they have him out there racing, and he's known for coming on strong at the end of the races. And I don't know that he's got enough to get up into a battle for a podium, but not at all unbelievable to think that he might end up chasing down Chris Bach to put a battle on for that 4th place spot. But as we were talking about a moment ago, Ryan Sipes, you know, to do what he did, 90 years, the first rider to ever win the ISDE overall from the United States. He's been getting stronger and stronger week in and week out in GNCC. Although he's 5th place in points right now, in many of these races, he has been Caleb Russell's biggest competitor, closest competitor. And I think we actually had a chance to check in with Ryan on his recent accomplishments and what all he's been doing during the break and all the cool stuff that's been going on for him here lately.
Hey, it's Ryan Sipes for Unadilla GNCC. Just coming off of the ISDE where I won the individual overall. It was an awesome week. Really cool experience for me. And it'll be a memory that'll, you know, stay with me forever because, you know, the first American to do it and all that. But just from a personal standpoint, it was just cool to be able to go over there and compete with the best riders in the world and be able to bring home the trophy was pretty awesome. So for this weekend, you know, it's back to work. Last weekend never even happened. We're going to come in here and just focus on getting a good start and being smart out there and trying to, you know, get a win. That's my goal for this year is before the year's over, you know, I'd like to get a win or 3 or however many I can get. And I've got second a couple times, but I think I'm ready to step it up and be the guy and get on top step of the box.
Wow, that's some pretty bold words. I'm ready to step it up and be the guy.
Well, you know what? For a week over in Slovakia, Ryan Sipes was the guy.
Yeah.
There's no question about that. And, you know, we've watched Ryan Sipes really mature into his own. He stopped in as a guest appearance many years ago. I believe it was at the Mammoth GNCC. He rode, I think he even rode an A-class at the time because he had no idea what he was going to do in the woods. Then he came out, started racing, you know, obviously with us last year, came out in a full-time capacity, and then this year really committed himself completely to GNCC, and he's just been progressing and progressing and progressing. And I think a lot of people questioned whether or not Ryan Sipes could make the transition. He had no woods background. Some of the guys that have, you know, Rodney Smith, Fred Andrews, guys that had kind of made this transition in the past, either them or their families had some type of off-road or woods racing background. Ryan Sipes did not have that. He's a purebred motocrosser from Kentucky, but the one thing that Ryan Sipes has is work ethic. He's not afraid to work hard. He's a humble guy. You know, he's lived in the, you know, he's got obviously a big sponsor there with Rockstar, but he's lived in a Rockstar world for many years now. You know, American motocross athletes are rock stars. They're, you know, they have private buses, they have people that do everything for them. Ryan Sipes lived in that world for a number of years, and then to come back to the grassroots of racing, although this is the largest off-road series in the world, you know, off-road athletes they're blue collar, they work hard, you know, they might have great teams and great sponsors and great supporters behind them and, you know, make great money for what it is that they do, but the reality of it is they're grinders. They get out there, they get on the road. Ryan Sipes drives a pickup truck with a camper behind it. He comes to the races, he runs his own program, and he's not afraid to work hard, and man, is it paying off here for him lately.
And he puts his own tents up. You know, he hangs his own banners in his pit. He dresses that up. He helps do the work on his own bikes and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, good to see that and bring that work ethic to this side of things. And again, I talked to him a lot, Johnny, and he said he grew up a lot, when he couldn't ride motocross when it was too wet down in Kentucky, because he didn't go to a lot of those training camps and schools that everybody goes to these days. He said he'd hit the woods sometimes and ride it as a kid, and that's where he got a lot of his good mud riding skills from.
Many years ago, Bill Balance, a former, obviously 9-time GNCC champion on the ATV side, his family owned the Balance Motocross Park, and Ryan Sipes used to come race there quite often, actually, on off weekends. Him and his brother, Pooh Sipes, they would come out, and they were rock stars in that world at that time. Sipes went through a bunch of different factory rides, but it was always cool to see. They'd show up in a pickup truck, they'd have the whole family with them, and even then, when he was at kind of the height of his career, racing supercross, racing motocross, he was always interested in kind of the woods and what things were going on. He was always talking with Bill, and I think maybe the seeds for his off-road career were planted back then. And
wow,
it was a cool transition, and then he kind of really was doing so well in motocross and supercross there for a while. I never thought we'd see him here.
My question is, I wonder how many guys are going to follow suit now if they see how well that Ryan's doing over here now.
Well, it's a tough road to make. Although there's been a handful of guys, Fred Andrews actually pedaling past us, your broadcast partner from yesterday on his Cannondale mountain bike. Obviously, he was probably the first one that I know of anyway that really made that successful transition. Or Rodney Smith around the same time also. Rodney Smith was a world-class motocross racer, I believe Brazilian national champion, if I'm not mistaken, a number of times. Came over here, did battle, won championships. Fred Andrews the same. But it's been a long time since we've had a rider do that. Fred Andrews did that first in 1993.
Right.
Ryan Sipes is now here doing that in 2015. So that's quite a gap of time there. And speaking of gaps of time, Josh Strang does not have anybody on his rear wheel at the moment.
Wow.
So we'll have to see what kind of gap of time he's able to pull out over Ryan Sipes and Thad Duvall.
And here
when
comes
we last saw them, we're in the second and third place spots.
Remember when we were talking about if Strang does have to pit a second time because he pitted so early, but it looks like we're going to get that, or we got that 2-lap board out, so I don't know if that's going to help him in that department or not. But this gap that he's got built up right now is certainly a nice little comfort zone if he does decide he has to stop.
Here's your answer. And there he is. He's in the pits. They're making this one quick. They know Ryan Sipes is hot on his heels. They give him fuel. And here comes some riders around the corner. And is that Ryan Sipes? Is he going to be inside of Josh Strang? Strang going away. There's Sipes. And is that Duvall also?
Wow. If this right here, this could be a barn burner. I said it yesterday that we caught them boys playing with matches. They could be getting ready to set this place on fire. And if that's the case, Josh Strang, Ryan Sipes, and Thad Duvall that close together racing toward the white flag.
Rodney, that may not have been Sipes. It was hard to tell. I saw that Liat Camelback that maybe was a little bit deceiving. I don't think that was Sipes.
Might not have been. We'll see right here.
Yes, it is. No, it's not.
Nope.
That is not Sipes and Duvall. So we're still waiting on Sipes and Duvall. Josh Strang has pulled away now. He's pulled one heck of a gap away. We still haven't seen these guys in the VP Fuels Pro row.
22 minutes and 50 seconds on that lap time.
There is Sipes now working his way through the finish.
That's about identical to what we saw him turn a lap ago. Actually, he was just a hair faster, about 8 seconds faster, I think. But here at the end of lap number 6, Strang turns to 22 minutes, 50 seconds, a 22:57, 26 seconds behind now is Ryan Sipes back in the number 2 spot, and he only lost 7 seconds there. So Strang is he took that 13-second lead and he's expanded on it. Now the question is 3.75 seconds. That's where Thad Duvall is back in the number 3 spot. So wow, 3 top riders today again. Husqvarna riders, and I gotta wonder, is that going to be the first time they've ever swept the podium at a GNCC? If that happens, I know that we've seen a couple of them up there, but have we? No, we have not seen a sweep of them this year, at least, anyway.
We haven't seen a sweep this year, but I would have to go out on a limb and say that would almost not be the first time that Husqvarna has swept an overall podium. It would certainly be the first time that they've done it in the modern era. But I would say back in the 80s or 90s, it almost certainly had to have happened when Eddie Lojak and John Martin and all those guys were riding Huskies and Can-Ams, and this was before KTMs were even a thing. They didn't even exist.
Right.
All
right. That Chelsea, get on that. Find out whether or not we've ever had a Husqvarna sweep the podium or not. She's going to be our stats girl today.
I'm sure we can go over and talk to somebody in the Husky pits. Maybe they'll know. You know, they might have the stats board hung up in the team hauler there. But as we wait now, it looks like we're waiting on. I don't think we've seen our fourth place rider check in. Chris Bach. We're still waiting on him.
A little over 2 minutes, 2 minutes 4 seconds at the end of lap number 5, Johnny. So we expect that to be the same he's running.
And there he is right there. He's working his way through the finish line chicanes, or the chicanes leading up to the VP Fuels Pro row. And he was looking over his shoulder there, and if he looks much further, what he may see is Grant Baylor coming. So hopefully they're letting him know that Grant Baylor's on the charge, as he's going to be getting the white flag here in a moment.
Well, the riders now heading toward the pro pits there again. Chris Bach, the number 9 we see back behind him a lap ago, was about 44 seconds back was Grant Baylor off his pace a lap ago. One thing to point out, 2250s and 57s, right around the 23-minute mark there for the top 3, you could say. And last time around, Bach turned about a 50-second slower lap than the leaders did, and we'll see if that's the case this time around, as he'll be checking in shortly for lap 6 complete. Hard to believe he's not even there yet. But
yeah, it looks like he's taking a drink there from, little stumble, but he's going to take.
Oh, Caleb Russell is coming up behind him, it looks like. Caleb's gotten on fire. If that's the case, what? Has he gotten around Grant Baylor, too? Or are we missing
looks
something
like
here,
Andrew
Johnny?
DeLong was also in there. So we've got.
This is going to be interesting. This is the good thing about being so close to the finish line. I'm having a tough time with the sun glaring on the TV.
Yeah, that is Caleb Russell there. There's a lap rider between him, but Chris Bach in the 4th place spot. Caleb Russell in 5th. Andrew DeLong in 6th. So we've lost Grant Baylor, who was ahead of DeLong when we last saw him there. The white flag is out. Caleb Russell smelling blood in the water, wanting to grab as many points as he can. Although he's got the championship essentially on lockdown. Now we see Grant Baylor, who would be the 8th place rider, I believe, 7th, 8th?
Class ride, he's 7th place position.
7th place in the class. We'll have to wait and see as Nick Davis and Jason Thomas check in. They have a minute to get their way through to overtake those guys for the overall position. But, man, lots of racing action left here. With only 1 lap left, there's a lot of stuff left unsettled.
Josh Strang, Ryan Sipes, Thad Duvall, your top 3 with Chris Bach back and forth. Caleb Russell rounds out the top 5 and is in motion to possibly seal the deal on his 3rd championship. GNCC Live continues after this.
Scott's Performance, the only steering dampener with 21 Baja 1000 overall victories, introduces the new Scott's Rubber Submount. Easy to install at less than an hour in most cases, it features adjustable on-the-fly dampening to help reduce arm pump and fatigue. Come see what 25 years of experience building the best stabilizer can do at scottsonline.com. The Sunstar Work Z rear sprocket is made of stainless steel, making it 3 times more durable than a standard steel sprocket. Team it with the 520 XTG triple guard sealed ring chain with 3 lubrication pulls per side. Durability in the toughest conditions.
And welcome back to GNCC Live on RacerTV.com. All racing all the time. Rodney Tomlin along with Johnny Gallagher and also Megawatt Matt Watson with us as we are now 2 hours and looks like 25 minutes into this Parts Unlimited Unadilla GNCC, working on lap number 7, the white flag lap. And still an opportunity and a chance to tweet your podium finish predictions. Hashtag them GNCC Live for a chance to win $250 in AMSOIL products. I heard your predictions there earlier today. It's so late in the race, I'm not even going to give mine. But I will say this, as I look at these top 3 right now, I probably would have chosen 2 of those top 3.
Yeah, I was, I believe I had 2 of the top. No, I didn't, actually. I don't think, I don't remember if I kept, I know I had Sipes, I believe I had Bach for the win.
Yeah,
so
you had Bach for the win.
He's going to let me down today. And
honestly, I'll be honest with you. I was thinking Sipes, Duval, and Grant Baylor for whatever reason whenever that initially came up. And the reason I didn't pick Josh Strang is not because I didn't have the faith in him. It's because I don't know what to expect and didn't know what to expect out of him after knowing that he missed so many rounds of racing with the injury there just before the break.
Yeah, he was kind of another question mark we had. And another question mark we have, we're just, as we're watching our screen here, it's difficult to see with the darkness exactly what we got going on. So we got a little bit of a glare off our screen. So if we see the leaders come through and we miss them, we're sorry. We're watching for them here. I don't think we've seen them yet so far. What we're seeing is the 3-mile marker. These guys have worked their way through. These guys have worked their way through. We got rid of a little bit of the glare there. They have worked their way through the finish line, and at the finish line, it was Josh Strang with a 26-second lead over Ryan Sipes. Thad Duvall just 3 seconds behind behind Sipes in the 3rd place spot, and then the 4th place spot, it was Chris Bach. We now know that we're told Caleb Russell has actually taken that 4th place spot away from Chris Bach. So Caleb Russell, after riding most of the race in the 7th place spot, just kind of cruising around there, battling back and forth with Grant Baylor. It appears he's kicked on the afterburners, and he's battled up into that 4th place spot, which only further secures his points lead and potential championship here with less than about 5 miles left to race and go once we pass the 3-mile marker here.
I think that's impressive if you ask me, because what I was I'm not going to say I was writing him off, but I kind of thought, well, maybe Caleb has reached his limit. He's going to lay back. It's maybe getting sore, getting tender, but it's a good positive sign whenever he's able to push this late in the race under the conditions that he's racing under with that torn ACL like that.
Yeah, absolutely. If Caleb's able to come out here with the 4th place, and there is Josh Strang working his way up that inside line. So there's your leader. We'll wait and see. It was 26 seconds we last saw, so we'll have to wait and see. It looked like he came to the top of the hill there at 2 hours and 28 minutes even. So we'll have to see exactly what that comes out to be as we wait for Ryan Sipes. Don't believe that was him there. We've got a couple left riders working their way through here, but these guys are still pushing hard. And with Thad Duvall right on Sipes' rear wheel like he was when we last saw him at the White Flag, wouldn't be surprised at all if these guys are able to make up a little bit of a time. Not them here yet. And there is Ryan Sipes. So 30, Thad Duvall going up on the left. Looks like he makes a new line, pops out part ways up. So those guys are about 35 seconds back now. So they've lost about another 9 seconds on Strang. Strang's really turned up the wick here. Looks like he's kind of trying to set himself apart, give himself a little bit of breathing room just in case he wouldn't counter some lappers or a bottleneck in the final few miles of racing. 5 miles to go here until we see these guys at the finish, and we see what most certainly, unless Caleb Russell can really wick it up here, we're going to see a first-time winner in 2015.
Yep, and I think even as fast as Caleb Russell is on his best day, 3 minutes and 5 seconds over the course of the time we got left here, 6 more miles? I don't think he's even going to be able to do that.
No, that's a lot of time to make up, but still, again, impressive to see him work his way up into that 4th place position. After spending much of the day, as we said, kind of pushing himself there, worrying about that championship, just riding around a conservative 6th, 7th place position, which we all know, for Caleb, it's a struggle even with that ACL like that. It's tough to compete with the best riders in the world when you're not at 100%.
It most certainly is, and what's even tougher is whenever you're competing with a rider that's not 100% and he's still competing with you. That's got to be tough.
Yeah, certainly it's Caleb's a special breed of person. He pushes himself. He knows his limits, but at the same time, he's able to push past what many people would believe are limits. And obviously, he's proven that today. I mean, if he can finish off this with a top 5 or even the top 10 and wrap up this championship with a torn ACL, I mean, many people have ridden with him over the years, but at that level, to be able to compete just less than 2 weeks after that injury, it really shows his mental toughness.
It most certainly does. And right now, we are getting to see the like you said, the fruits of all that, and that is going to be Josh Strang quite possibly getting his first win ever here at Unadilla as he makes his way over the 5 mile and the 5 mile mark and the Sky Shot at tabletop here, the world famous tabletop at Unadilla Valley Sports Center. And again, that 30 or 35-second gap back to the number 2 spot. And this one should still be pretty heated. I know that advantage goes to Ryan Sipes as they run across the motocross
Here they come, they're
track.
nose to tail, Rodney. I don't mean to cut you off, but they're all over each other, and both these guys are very avid motocrossers. We just saw them shoot by the other way. There's Sipes. Oh, and Thad Duvall was right on his rear wheel when they went the other way. Have to wonder if possibly Thad encountered a lapper. There's...
Wow.
Oh, still right there.
Wow, I still think that maybe Thad panned it a little better that time.
We'll have to see if that bonus second that we're paying out comes into play. We'll have a hard time convincing the race administrators and organizers to honor our 1 second advantage, but we'll have to see how that pans out.
But still, good to see this, guys. That is pretty funny how one goes one way, goes the other, and they panned them out, laid them out just beautiful there, and the fans have got to be appreciating that are hanging out over at Sky Shop. Caleb heading up the hill here at the 3-mile marker, so that puts him still right on target to be about that maybe a little under 3 minutes behind these guys now.
Yeah, hard to say. I lost track. I don't remember exactly what time it was we saw those guys. I want to say it was 2:28 even that we saw Strang. If that's the case, he's about almost 4 minutes behind those guys, which is what he was before. There we see Bach, so Caleb has stretched it out quite a bit on Bach. I don't know if we saw DeLong come through there just yet or not, so that would put Caleb in the 4th place, potentially Bach in 5th. We'll see these guys here at the 5-mile marker at the Sky Shot in just a few moments.
So we mentioned the top amateur and how things were winding down, or shaping up, I should say. They're about midway report or so, and we go back and check into the top amateurs. And it looks like there's been some changes. Vance Francis, who is 2nd place in the 250A class, moves into 2nd in contention for the top amateur overall, but he is 2 minutes behind Anthony Stone, the 552, who is looking like he's going to be the man to beat as far as top amateur is concerned here today. So could be a 250A rider, and Anthony Stone could be the man to do that.
Yeah,
So right now, looking at the way things are unfolding, you know, we talk a lot about a couple of front runners in that XC2 Pro Lights class. Let's go ahead and look at those guys real quick. See how things are breaking down for them, Johnny. Nick Davis now a 5-second lead.
I just, out of the corner of my eye here, Rodney, I just caught Josh Strang working his way behind the Racer TV studios. He is still leading. He's working his way through those ruts, and he looked really good. He looked aggressive. It's unbelievable that after almost, 2 hours and 34 minutes of racing, these guys are still pushing as hard as they are. And as I'm looking out over this Unadilla track, it looks just like Pro National Day here.
That's what I was
The
going to say.
ruts are deep. Oh, wow. There's Ryan Sipes. I don't know if that was 26 seconds or not. And there is Thad Duvall. So those guys are still pushing. Although it's less than 5 miles of racing left, you never know. Anything could happen.
You're right about that track. It is looking like a national day there. Some deep ruts coming around that turn there. There is Caleb Russell over Sky Shot, getting a little air time. Oh, and the air time looking good, but, you know, hey, you don't have to style to impress me, man. Just being on that bike today is impressing me. So it's Nick Davis, excuse me, that's in the XC2 Pro Lights. Davis, Thomas, Bollinger, Russell, Ricky Russell in 4th, Jesse Grom in 5th. Your XC1 Pro class, it's Josh Strang, Ryan Sipes, Thad Duvall, Chris Bach, and yes, Caleb Russell rounds out in the top 5. GNCC Live continues after this. Welcome back to GNCC Live's continuing coverage of the Parts Unlimited Unadilla GNCC Motorcycle Sunday here at Unadilla. And again, Josh Drain continues to lead. Ryan Sipes, Thad Duvall, second, third. It is Caleb Russell up to the number 4 spot. And Andrew DeLong now, I believe, has moved in to the number 5 position as we saw them go by here on the moto track just behind the RacerTV.com studios just a few moments ago. They are racing their way to the finish line right now. We are some 4 minutes away from an expected checker flag here and the conclusion of today's race and the opportunity and we get to witness it. A first-time winner of Unadilla taking place here, and that of what looks like going to be Josh Strang. And even if he doesn't, and Ryan does, well, it'd be the first time he won here. And same thing. Well, nope, not for Thad Duvall. He has won here before, but it's going to take a lot for either Ryan or Thad to be in contention because Josh Strang really laid down the charge and laid down the gauntlet on that final lap of racing, showing what kind of work he's been doing in the off-season himself. As we've seen a 26-second lead now stretched out to nearly 40 seconds over the second-place ride of Sipes at last check. Again, as we said, we're less than 4 minutes away from seeing this all unfold. This another history-making moment here. 2,221 riders in attendance here this weekend, some 825 in this morning's 10 o'clock race alone, 340 here this afternoon, and 200 early this morning with our youth motorcycles. It's been a huge and monumental day, and regardless if we come up short on the numbers totally, we certainly have broke a motorcycle attendance number here today with 824 on that starting line at one time today. So a big weekend, another historical weekend as we basically set sail into our second decade of GNCC racing here at Unadilla Valley Sports Center. Rodney Tomlin along with Johnny Gallagher. Megawatt Matt Watson will be joining us for podium presentations coming up here in just a few moments. And Johnny, we were talking about the changes there. Russell up to 4th. DeLong, it looks like it's gone into 5th. Something that I'm not sure. I know you were checking on some things. Anything going on with Chris Bach, or did we just happen to miss him on the moto track out there?
No, he's actually in the 6th place position. He's about 10 seconds behind Andrew DeLong there. Looks like he's got his goggles off. He just doesn't look 100%. Not sure if it's an issue with him or the machine. I spoke with his mechanic Ben Weathers, and Ben said he was saying something in the pit. He said something to one of the crew members out on the track, so something amiss with him, but as of right now, he is still circulating in 6th place spot, trying to salvage what he can on the day. So a bummer for him. He was running 4th and had a solid good ride going, and it appears in the last lap or so some issues may have popped up that dropped him back. But Caleb Russell certainly on the charge, looked very aggressive out there on the moto track, and Andrew DeLong shadowing him. Certainly a good ride for DeLong there in 5th place. You know, he's been on the mend, had an early season injury, and had to have surgery on that collarbone, and he's been mending and trying to get back in contention for the overall championship in the National Enduro Series, and at the same time establishing himself as a front runner here in GNCC.
Hey, all you Keystoners watching along RacerTV.com, be sure and join us here in 2 weeks. Our next round of GNCC racing coming up Saturday, October 3rd for the ATV portion of things, and Sunday, October 4th, it's the CarMate Mountain Ridge GNCC, going to be taking place in Central City, Pennsylvania there, just up from Shanksville, where the memorial for Flight 93, the 9/11 tragedy is located. It's become quite a bit of a tradition in GNCC itself. And there's Josh Strang right there. It looks like he is in the home stretch, Johnny Gallagher, on his way home to a very monumental win. Not only getting his first win here at Unadilla, but the first of what could be many more wins in the future in his bid to make it back to the top of the ranks of the GNCC world.
Yeah, you know, we see Strang taking a look over his shoulder there, looking to see if he can see Ryan Sipes. But what I do see is Caleb Russell. We'll have to see, did I miss Sipes? Or I'm sorry, not Caleb Russell, Thad Duvall. I don't know if I missed Sipes there. We'll have to wait and see. But I did see, No, there is Ryan Sipes. So Thad Duvall now into the number 2 spot, and Ryan Sipes back into 3rd. So those guys have had a torrid battle this last lap. But Josh Strang is already up, working his way through the VP Fuels Pro Row.
There he is.
You see his team members cheering him on there. Strang, you know this has been a long time coming for him. He got on that factory Husqvarna ride this year, was looking forward to having that full support of the factory team behind him. He's been progressing all year long. He's been getting better and better. And today it looks like he's going to finish this one out with a win.
Well, folks, the Aussie and former GNCC champion Josh Strang rounds the final few turns here at the world-famous home of horsepower, the Unadilla GNCC, my friends. And as he makes his way around, a fist bump to the air, and your Parts Unlimited GNCC champion Josh Strang here in 2015. And as we said, Johnny, that could be the first of many wins to come in his bid to make it back to the top of the GNCC ranks. He was a champion once in this series, and he's hoping to be able to make that happen again, and that could be the first paving stone he has laid in order to reach that goal. Around the final turns, here comes the 989 of Bad Thad Duvall, I believe, going to be checking in that number 2 spot, if I'm not mistaken. Another remarkable ride coming off of a great ride at ISDE, winning here in 2012, I believe it was, and he comes away with a 2nd place finish here today, but hot on his rear wheels will be the 12 seconds back anyway at this point. Ryan Sipes will finish 3rd, and for the first time in recent history anyway, we see that Husqvarna sweeps the podium here in GNCC. Another monumental thing that we can write in the history books here for Unadilla GNCC Racing, Johnny Gallagher.
Yeah, and speaking of monumental moments in history books, the next rider we're waiting on, it's history in the making right there. Caleb Russell crosses the line in the 4th place spot. No matter where anyone else finishes, that will put Caleb Russell as your 2015 GNCC overall champion. He will carry that number 1 plate again in 2016. You know, if he can lock this up here in just the final miles, he doesn't have to do a whole lot spectacular to make it happen. He's put in one heck of a ride all day long, riding through the pain, riding through the adversity. You know it's been on his mind for the last 2 weeks, wondering, can I do this? I know I can do this. Can I do this? I know I can do this. So he's probably been his own best friend and his own worst enemy all at the same time. He's been pushing himself, and today he's got nothing but a few corners and a few straightaways left between him and history. You know, to be able to do this, the dominant season that he's had, winning 8 of the first 9 races, coming in here with an injury, saying, look, all I need to do is leave here with a 90-point lead over Grant Baylor. Right now, if things end the way they are, he had 104 points over Baylor coming in. We don't even need to do any math because Baylor's back in 7th and Russell's in 4th, so that would extend the points lead further. He'd have more than a 100-point lead with 3 rounds remaining. No way he can be beaten. Here it is, folks. Caleb Russell, if you're not down at the finish line, if you didn't get to see Josh Strang win his first race in 2015, you didn't get to see that Husky podium sweep, you still want to get down there. Because here comes the man of the year. He may not be the man of the day. That belongs to Josh Strang, but Caleb Russell, the man of the hour, the man of the year. He's coming through right now, working his way through the VP Fuels Pro Row, working his way towards that 2015 GNCC championship.
As we wait with bated breath, rounding the turn, heading into the VP Fuels Pro Row, aboard the number 1, Caleb Russell, paving his way home to the finish line and his 3rd and consecutive GNCC title, a 3rd consecutive GNCC title, and I'll tell you folks, this is one that he is going to be building on for next year as well. He's going to be tough to beat at this point, even rolling into the 2016 season, but nonetheless, he's riding the wave here today. Josh Strang takes the win at the Parts Unlimited Unadilla GNCC, but ladies and gentlemen, rounding the final turns, put your hands together for the 2016 Grand National Cross Country Champion, Caleb Russell.
You have to feel for him right now, the flood of emotions that must be coming his way. You know he wants to win every race, but to know that he overcame the adversity, he did what he needed to do. He came in here not at 100%. To come out with a 4th place finish in such a rough track. There's Andrew DeLong crossing the line in 5th. Great ride for him. You know, to be able to do what Caleb Russell did today, he should be incredibly proud. You know, it's a feeling of relief. It's a weight lifted off his shoulders. And there's his crew surrounding him. They're talking about Thad Duvall congratulating on his championship. There you see Barry Hawk and Caleb's dad, Jeff Russell. They're discussing, you know, the fact that he wrapped it up. And what a great day for Caleb.
Wow, what a great day for GNCC Racing. We as a racing nation and as race fans, Johnny Gallagher, just bore witness to some great moments in GNCC Racing today, I think.
What an exciting day of racing here. You know, with the first-time winner in 2015, an awesome podium battle all day long. Those guys never more than 30 seconds apart for much of the race, not more than 3 seconds apart. You know, we haven't seen that kind of racing really all year long, so exciting day. We've got not a new champion, but a returning champion crowned again, and we've still got our XC2 battle working its way in with Nick Davis and Jason Thomas, and Trevor Bollinger had worked his way up into the third place spot, and then obviously we still have to settle our amateur overall, so some racing left here, but still Caleb Russell there. We see the dirty face, but a happy face, a relieved face of Caleb Russell. He did what he needed to do. He gets to keep that #1 plate and gets to go on and get himself healthy and ready to defend it again in 2016.
And guess what? He gets to take this championship. He gets to get that big sigh of relief. And then next week, he was telling me that his son, Chandler, his wife, is actually expecting their son within the next 3 days, or due dates in the next 3 days. So over the course of the next week or two, he's going to be a proud new papa, got a 3rd championship under his belt, and looking at the possibility of a national enduro championship title. What more could you ask for as a racing champion than to be able to achieve and have those types of things come your way in a championship season? Maybe the ISDE overall, but you know, that's one he's just putting behind him right now.
You know, Rodney, if you want to talk about a hectic weekend, Caleb Russell coming back, being overseas for, you know, upwards of 2 weeks, coming back with an injury, getting himself settled, getting himself in the proper mindset to come out here and do what he needed to do today. All of that while his wife Chandler not being here this weekend. She's normally his rock. She's right at his side. I asked him on Friday, I said, Caleb, are you missing Chandler? And he said, yeah, I miss her a little bit, but I really miss the dogs. So, you know, it's a big change to his regiment, knowing that he's got, you know, a new child on the way, their first child. So it's been a busy week. It's been a busy few weeks. But, you know, Caleb Russell, he puts himself in that mindset, does what he needs to do. There we see him putting that jersey on backwards with the #1 on it, getting that FMF Factory KTM hat, fresh white one, putting it on there, getting ready to go up on that podium and accept that #1 plate.
Well, it looks like we got our XC2 Pro Lights riders in. Jason Thomas does it. He pulls it out at the very last moments.
1 second over Nick Davis. Oh my, that was a barn burner.
No doubt. Can you imagine how frustrated Nick Davis is going to be after that?
I'm not sure frustrated is the word for it.
I'm going to wait a little while before I head over there. Let's put it that way. We're waiting on 3rd place. He's working on lap 7. He's got 6 wrapped up right now, but 1 minute and 27 seconds back behind Nick Davis and Jason Thomas. At the end of lap 6 was Trevor Bollinger. So we're waiting on that right now as we continue to watch your 3-time GNCC champion, Caleb Russell. You know, Caleb's had an amazing year this year. As we said, he's hoping to be able to win the National Enduro title also. One of the cool things that Caleb was able to accomplish in the summer months and the summer break, aside from all the other cool things that he did, was the fact that he actually won the Jack Pine Enduro, and that's a race that meant a lot to him to win, simply because it's one of the enduros, national enduros, that his father had won many, many years ago as a national enduro champion himself. And for a father-son, I think that might have been the first time we've seen that happen like that. But congratulations on a great summer. Congratulations on a championship. Congratulations on a great 2016 to Caleb Russell. Congratulations as well to Josh Strang, his first win of 2015. And we get to celebrate with Thad Duvall, and Ryan Sipes when Racer TV returns.
The Sunstar Work Z rear sprocket is made of stainless steel, making it 3 times more durable than a standard steel sprocket. Team it with the 520 XTG triple guard sealed ring chain with 3 lubrication pools per side. Durability in the toughest conditions.
And welcome back to GNCC Live as Josh Strang does it. Takes his first win here at the Unadilla GNCC and the first win of 2015. Thad Duvall coming up in the number 2 spot with Ryan Sipes back in the number 3 position. Caleb Russell finishing up 4th place today, that torn ACL, and not only that 4th place finish also nets him his 3rd GNCC championship title. Andrew DeLong finishes 5th, Chris Bach in 6th, Jason Thomas 7th, Nick Davis in 8th, Grant Baylor 9th, Tyler Medaglia rounds out the top 10, and that's a look at your Rocky Mountain ATVMC.com overall results there. And one other race that we've been watching is the one for the top amateur. We'll update you on that, and then here in just a few moments we will be heading down to the podium region to give you an idea of what is taking place, and we'll be meeting and greeting and congratulating our competitors on a job well done here today. And still ways before we see our top amateurs check in, but we're waiting on Anthony Stone at the moment, the 552-258 class rider with over a 2-minute lead over the 2nd place ride in that class. I want to say congratulations to Jay Lipscomb. It's at @JLipscomb_7, as he is the winner of our Twitter contest, our AMSOIL Twitter contest, and picks up $250 in AMSOIL product. He tweeted out that he expected to see Thad Duvall at Thaddy989, Ryan Sipes at R_Sipes, and Josh Strang at Josh Strang to take the podium. Well, he was close. He got the right 3. But regardless of how they come in, he hashtagged at GNCC Live. His name was drawn, and he picks himself $250 in AMSOIL product up here today. So congratulations to you, Jay. And be sure, folks, and join us next time on Racer TV, as we'll be playing once again when we head October 3rd and 4th to the Mountain Ridge GNCC. We can see that podium presentations are getting closer to getting underway. We see that Megawatt Matt Watson is standing by down on the podium. And Matt, looks like another historical day unfolds here at Unadilla.
You got that right, Rodney. Here we are. Make some noise, New York, for our top 3 overall. 3rd place, Ryan Sipes. 2nd place, Thad Duvall. 1st place, Josh Strang. Make some noise, New York. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Not only did we wrap up a great race here just a few minutes ago, we also wrapped up a championship title here. We're going to address that situation in just a few minutes. But Ryan Sipes, holy cow, the man about the world right now. Everywhere you look at a dirt bike race, this guy shows up, and he's in contention for a win or a podium anywhere he goes. Ryan, you just had a masterful, history-making performance over in Europe at the ISDE. You come home, you follow it up with a 3rd place here today. Man, you've just got to be on cloud 9 right now. The first American in history to win the overall at the ISDE. Absolutely. Make some noise. You know what? We had a great team going. We had a great effort going on from all the guys. But you know what? You never lost the focus. You never lost the drive. And you were able to bring it home, the first individual overall. But here we are back in the States, man, where your toughest competition is, I believe. And you get back at it. You pick right up where you left off, and here you are on the podium again.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a good day. I felt like I rode good. I felt like I had a win in me, and I felt like I had a second in me, but I had a couple crashes on that last one. But you know, no excuses. These guys rode really good and had a lot of fun riding up there with them. It was chaos out there with lappers and stuff. But my Husky 350 did awesome. Really got to thank all my sponsors. I got to thank God first. I got to thank Husky, Air Group, Rockstar, Aero Helmets, Dunlop, FMF, MSR, Dragon Goggles. You guys are cheering me on. I can see you out there. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Congratulations, Ryan. Make some noise, you guys. We'll make our way over here to 2nd place. Unadilla's 2nd son, actually, Thad Duvall. Thad, you always have a great performance here. You were up front. You were in 2nd. You were in 3rd. You were all over the place in the top 5 today. Man, you hunkered down. You come up here with a 2nd place today.
Yeah, it was good. Hats off to Josh. He kind of just checked away from us. You know, I felt like I was riding really, really good, and you know, me and Ryan got together, and I kind of thought we'd be able to run Josh back down, but you know, he kept her honest. You know, I think we were all pretty much the same speed all day. We just we got a little separated on the pit, and Josh got away. But you know, it was super fun the last 2 laps riding with Ryan. You know, me and Ryan became pretty good friends over in Slovakia, and then you know, it was fun racing him today. You know, it was it was nice racing somebody that you know was going to take you out coming down a hill or going up a hill and stuff. And you know, it was awesome. You know, the Husky worked great, and you know, it's a Husky sweep, so it's pretty sweet.
Hey, I saw you got to throw a couple signature whips over there across the biggie, huh?
Yeah, you know, it was sick. One lap, Ryan was like right in front of me, and he threw one, and I'm like, oh, I got to throw one. So both of us threw pretty big ones, so it was sick. And, you know, I'm glad that the line ended up straightening out and giving a little show for the fans. And, you know, they would go wild every time, and it would like give you goosebumps. And, you know, there were so many in the woods, it was crazy.
I told these people earlier I watched you turn a YZ85 upside down as a kid.
Yeah, you know, I just grew up riding moto, I guess, and switched. It's good in the woods. It keeps me going.
Right on. Who you want to thank, big guy?
Definitely Rocky Mountain, ATVMC, FAR, Fred Andrews. You know, he put this program together and, you know, signed me aboard this year. And WRP, Husqvarna, you know, they had the opportunity not to help me out at all any this year. And, you know, they stepped up and gave me some pretty good parts and helped me out along the way. DQ, wrenching on my bikes, my mom and dad, my fiance Maggie, the whole KR4 team. You know, it's bittersweet standing up here knowing that I bought this bike and I paid for this suspension, and you know, it's a whole family effort, and I'm stoked to be up here.
Awesome. Well, congratulations today, man, with second place. Thad Duvall, you guys. All right, and the man of the hour, we're over here with Josh Strang. Josh, holy cow, man, what a ride today. Whole shot and never look back.
Yeah, I think this is the first race in 8 years I've led from start to finish, so it was a good day. I'll take it for sure.
I tell you what, man, you had pressure all day long, but you never faltered.
No, it's been good. It was these boys are riding good. Coming off the 6th day, they work on their sprint speed, so I've been working hard. I feel like I'm the fittest guy here, so I wasn't too bad. I feel good right now, and I know my speed's there, and the Husqvarna was working really well. I've been working on some setup over the summer break, and it's working. This track is always really rough and tough, and it worked well today.
Yeah, you got to be pleased. You know, like I said, whole shot, you never look back, and I know there were a lot of people responsible for helping that happen, and who are they?
Yeah, Rockstar Energy, Husqvarna Factory Racing, Moose, CD, X-Brand, 6D, my new mechanic Michael, Timmy, Joey, everyone that gets my bike ready during the week, Trek Bikes, one main sponsor that helps me get in shape. So the fans that stayed off the track and we didn't nearly run over, and then all the lappers, man. This track is real tough, and we try not to take some of them out, but they pay our bills, and it's always good to see more and more people come racing.
Hey, for sure, no doubt about it. Congratulations, man. We're going to hand you the bubbly right now, and we got a champagne celebration coming up with our top 3 here today, you guys. Make some noise one more time while these guys pop the bubbly. Get the photo up here real quick, get these guys together. And then we're going to award Josh his whole shot award here in just a second. All right, you guys, one more time. Make some noise. Yeah. All right. Crowd around the front. I've seen Duvall with the bubbly before. He's got good aim. Josh got the big bottle. Bring it home, Josh. Yeah. There we go. Awesome. Congratulations to all 3 of these guys. We're going to take a minute. We're going to go ahead and award Josh his whole shot award. Chelsea has that right now. On behalf of All Balls Racing, Josh, congratulations. There's $250 in your pocket, man, for the whole shot award today. XC1 bike. Oh, come on. GQ. Sneak attack.
Well, there you have it, the podium celebration for our top 3 here at the Parks Unlimited Unadilla GNCC. And as the celebrations continue here, we're about to see the swag start to fly. We are also in preparation here to get set to honor our newly crowned champion here in 2015 for his third time over. Look at that, a nice big Rockstar backpack going out by Josh Strang as he's throwing out the cool swag there. But again, as his celebrations subside here on the podium, he's going to continue to take those on over into his pro pits. And they are going to revel on this and reflect on this and use it as a building block for the program for the rest of the season and, of course, the future in the coming seasons in 2016 and beyond, I'm quite sure. It's just the first step of many on his way to being a possible GNCC champion yet again. And speaking of GNCC champions yet again, a third GNCC title is what we're about to award here to the number one, known as KR557. Of course, we're talking about Caleb Russell, and resetting the podium, we'll also be having some XC2 Pro Lights podium coverage. We'll talk to those guys about the many and great things that took place during their battle today. But right now, we head down to the podium where Megawatt Matt Watson stands by with our new 2016 GNCC champ.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce at this time Mr. Tim Carter, the president of MX Sports and Racer Productions, to present the number one plate to Caleb Russell.
Thank you, Megawatt. Caleb, it is with great pleasure that I stand here not only on behalf of Racer Productions, but all of the GNCC Nation as we present to you another number one plate from the AMSOIL GNCC Racing Series by Maxxis and the American Motorcyclist Association. Ladies and gentlemen, your 2015 GNCC champion. Caleb, I know that this isn't the way, this is the way you wanted to end up this year, but you wanted to be able to win every one. And a couple of weeks ago in Slovakia, an injury to your knee. I know that you were even concerning whether you'd be able to race again this year, and now you're here with that number one plate. Congratulations.
Yeah, it was the last week has been pretty hectic, and been making a lot of phone calls to doctors and doing a lot of research, and I'm happy I ended up racing today because you never know what could happen. So I'm glad to nail it down. And it was tough at the beginning. It didn't feel very good at all, and I was more timid than anything, and it was real tight, and so the track was really gnarly this year. That rain overnight made it tack up and rut up, and I kept catching my foot here and there, and I was just trying to cruise around and work my way into it, and then I felt good there at the end, and I finally got the flow of things, and just started riding, and I started picking guys off, and I was They never even really were telling me where I was. They were just telling me where I was at and, where Grant Baylor was at, because that was the deciding factor today for the championship. And, I ended up fourth. So it was good. Not where I wanted to be, obviously. I like to cap these things off by winning, but, I'll take this one.
Well, I know that the minute you hurt your knee, I'm sure the things that went through your mind, that all the work and all the dedication, and the real prize was winning this national championship. You're also in contention for another national championship.
Yeah, that's, the goal was to make it through today and see how everything felt and move on from there. And so, things are looking bright, so hopefully I can, go nail down this other one.
Things are looking real bright because in the next couple of weeks, this number one plate is going to feel insignificant because Caleb and his wife are about to have their firstborn, and that's really going to be cool.
Yeah, that's I haven't seen Chandler in probably 3 weeks now, and I wasn't able to go home when I was supposed to. I had to stay up at my dad's and been doing physical therapy up there with some doctors and just trying to rehab the best I could within a week. And, I'm going home, and so I'll be back Monday. Hopefully have a little boy on Wednesday.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we now present to you the national #1, your GNCC champion and soon-to-be dad, Caleb Russell. We might want to bring some of Caleb's team up. Caleb, I see your team are over there with their champs jackets and champs shirt. To come on up and get the photo opportunity. We'll be doing the XC2 here momentarily. We're going to turn it back over to Megawatt as we celebrate with Caleb Russell and the KTM guys.
All right, at this moment, we're going to take the entire team on the stage right now. Everybody that helped Caleb along throughout the season, the factory, the relatives, the family, the friends, everybody involved right now, up there right now for this great opportunity to get a photo with the champion. Right there's his granddad, Howard Russell, dad, Jeff Russell, the whole crew involved right now. So a proud moment for all those guys. Coming up next, we're going to have our XC2 podium. We'll get that taken care of. And then our top amateur award will be Anthony Stone. Anthony Stone, we're going to need you up here to the podium as well. And as soon as we find Anthony and we have our XC2 podium complete, we'll get that taken care of. Once again, congratulations to Caleb and everybody standing on that trailer. Everybody on that trailer right now was involved. There comes Tina, the mother. Right on. Woo! Give it up for Tina. Right on. And where's Michaela? Michaela around here anywhere? All right, like we said, just a moment, we'll have our XC2s underway, and then we'll wrap up the podium presentation with our top amateur, Anthony Stone. Our XC2 riders, Jason Thomas, Nick Davis, and Trevor Bollinger anxiously awaiting their chance up at the podium. An amazing race in that class today as well. XC2 guys worked it to the very end, had an amazing race, a couple position changes between those guys throughout the course of the day, and each and every one of those guys left it all on the track. We know when we get those guys together, we get Jason out there and Nick and throw Trevor in the mix, it's always going to be a great race, and looking forward to hearing how that one played out. All right, we got AG up there now. I think the picture may be complete. Awesome, and congratulations one more time to Caleb.
Well, 3 generations of Russell standing on the podium. And, you know, a year from now, when he possibly claims a 4th championship, we could see 4 generations of Russells on a podium at one time. As Pops gives him the big hug there, congratulations on a job well done and a very hard-fought effort by the young Caleb Russell there. As, wow, as we said about Josh there a moment ago, the celebrations are only beginning. They're only beginning right now for Caleb Russell, and we're getting ready to celebrate some more down here at Max's Victory Lane as we welcome to the podium our top 3 in the XC2 Pro Lights class. Once again, as we take a look at the class itself, rolling onto the podium, he finished in the number 2 spot today in the XC2 Pro Lights class, the number 15, Nick Davis. Rolling to the center of the podium here today aboard the number 17. How about it for UKJT, Jason Thomas, your XC2 Pro Lights winner. And in the number 3 spot, rolling on to the stage, it's Brownie Locks there, the 118 of Trevor Bollinger.
All right, you guys, make some noise for our XC2 top 3 today. Trevor Bollinger, Nick Davis, and Jason Thomas. Get our Unadilla 2015 class photo for the XC2 class here. One for the yearbook, that's for sure. All right, now it's time to get down to business. Trevor, man, I looked at you, I said, you okay? You and I have had some conversations in the past. I can read you a little bit, and you're like, man, I got barbed wire stuck in my front wheel. Cost me like 3 minutes. How'd that happen?
Yeah, on the first lap, I actually got a good start for once, and I was right behind Jason, and, you know, I was going along, all of a sudden my bike just, like, stopped, and it took me like 2 minutes to get it out. The A-class caught me, and luckily I got enough to get out, go back to the pits, and they cut the rest out. Probably cost me another minute, but, you know, I just beat myself up from there on out trying to catch back up to those guys, but you know, I'm happy with it today, and, you know, I felt like I had the speed to win. It's just, you know, unfortunate events, but, you know, that's racing, and, you know, I'm looking forward to the next one. Hopefully I can ride with Nick and Jason.
Yeah, for sure, man. With that kind of situation, you definitely have to be pleased, and definitely you can run with anybody anytime, so there's no question about that. Congratulations on a third place today. And who is it that helped you get up here today, Trevor?
Yeah, I'd like to thank my dad, my grandpa, Thomas, my trainer. He's been kicking my butt, and, you know, I can really tell E&H Honda, Fly Racing, CD Boots, 100% Goggles, Maxxis, ODI, Grips and Bars, Cycroplastic, anyone else I forgot, thanks a lot.
Right on. Give it up for Trevor Bollinger, third place today, XC2. All right, make our way over here to Nick Davis. Nick, holy cow, crazy out there today?
Yeah, it was pretty wild. I got off to a good start, and just kind of me and Jason hooked up like always. It seems like we always find each other, and we were wheel to wheel for 3 hours. So he rode an awesome race, and you know, we had a little different pit strategy, and we had to do a dash, you know, at the last lap there, splash and dash, and he kind of wheeled it in on me, that little cushion I had, and just kind of got screwed up with a lapper, and he got around me, and you know, he's smart. He's done it a long time, and he knows what he's doing, and seems like every time I would run it in on him, he knew exactly where I was going to be, and he'd close the door, and you know, I gotta give it up to my team and all his friends and family here supporting me. And we come through the pro pits wheel to wheel, flat tracking it, and everybody said they were scared on how fast we were going, so that's pretty cool. You know, we're pushing the envelope, and hopefully we'll, you know, see what happens at Somerset.
Well, I tell you, it was exciting, and it was scary, because Johnny Gallagher and I mentioned that too. Said, look at the speed these guys are carrying. No matter where they're at, they always seem to hook up, and you guys bring out the best in each other for sure.
Yeah, definitely. You know, it stinks to lose to him, and he don't like to lose me either. But you know, I really think we push each other, and it goes to show, because usually when we hook up, you know, the rest of the class seems to be pretty far back. You know, and we got pretty high in the overall today, and all in all, it was a good day, and just glad to be healthy, and got back from 6 days, and, you know, look forward to the next one.
Awesome. Well, man, who helped us get up here today?
I'd like to thank Rocky Mountain, ATVMC, KR4, FAR, Husqvarna, just Maxxis Tires, X-Brand, all my friends and family. This is home track for me, so every corner there was people out there supporting me. My little boy, he come to watch me today, so that was pretty cool. And just everybody, you know, I can't thank everybody enough. And you know, Steve Hatch, he trains me, so that brings me to the next level. 3 hours, you feel strong the whole time, and got to give it up to him, and just everybody, and even Jason, you know, good job to him today. He rode a great race, so that's about it.
Awesome job today, man. That's all I can tell you, Nick. A great ride. Second place, Nick Davis. All right, JT, here we are again, man, the middle of the podium. Man, I got to tell you, I saw Jason Thomas 101 today. Let me tell you, that was the epitome of a Jason Thomas ride out there, the effort, the determination, and I don't know what else to say about it, but it was pure JT.
Yeah, for sure. You know, it was nice to finally put it together at Unadilla. Seems every year I lose this race on the last lap or the last corner. So Nick rode awesome, and he was on my back wheel all the way to the finish, and you know, it's nice to race against him after a long summer break, and pumped to come away with the win.
How fun was it to huck that thing up over the sky shot?
Yeah, it was pretty good. You know, there was a chicane the first lap, and someone straight lined that, so I'm like, well, looks like everyone's straight lining it, so we'll go for it, and just hooked it, and it's fun to do. It's a little sketchy with the lappers and stuff, but it seemed like every lap we came up to it, there was no one there, so yeah, just hooked it and center.
Well, I give you 9.5 on the style, man. I'll tell you that right now. Super exciting. And you got the boss man standing beside here. I know there's a bunch of people you want to thank for helping you get this win today.
Yeah, obviously Shane Watts for all the help, putting everything together, and it's a little bit of a tedious job at times, and I know that. So thanks to him for doing that. Dirtwise Riding Schools, Climb Technical Riding Gear, Lee-Up Braces and Chest Protectors, Maxxis Tires, Flex Handlebars, and all the other great sponsors, SRT, and all the other great sponsors for helping out. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, congratulations, Jason. Here's that bottle bubbly. You know exactly what to do with that. You're no stranger to that. And congratulations to all three of our XC2 riders, Trevor Bollinger, Nick Davis, and, of course, our winner today, Jason Thomas. Yep. And while we've got Nick up here, we've got a whole shot award for Nick Davis while he's up here. All right, hey, while we've got Nick Davis up here, Nick able to pull that whole shot today in the XC2. So on behalf of Hot Cams, an extra $100 in your pocket tonight, Nick. Congratulations. We've got one more award to take care of today, and we're going to allow Johnny Gallagher to take care of that, our Top Amateur Award. Johnny, I think you've got a familiar face today, don't you? We're getting to know this guy pretty well. Actually, I watched that guy as a 12-year-old on mini bikes, man, and it's been a blast to watch him develop as a rider and watch his dad support him all these years, and what a team they've become, and going to be a force here in the future, I believe, Johnny.
All right, folks, for those of you that stuck around here, we've got one last award, the American Cargo GNCC Top Amateur Award. Today's top amateur is Anthony Stone for the third time in 2015. This guy wasn't even sure if he was racing the whole series this year. Came out, grabbed the top amateur twice already this year. This was the third. It was a good battle today. There was 3 or 4 of these guys all real close on time, battling each other, and Anthony Stone comes out on top. Anthony, today, top amateur overall for you. I can tell just by the look on your face this was a tough one for you. Why don't you tell us a little bit how your day went?
Well, I got the hole shot, and then some kid decided to pass me through the mud hole, and I got soaked. So we went a mile or two, and he ended up wrecking, and from there I was out front, and I just pushed, and I started hooking up with Sammy Evans and some other XC2 boys, and I was having fun, and I brought her clear to the end.
When we last saw you up on the overall podium, I believe it was the John Penton GNCC for your second overall amateur of the year. You said you really didn't expect this. You know, many years ago you've been up on this podium a number of times as a youth racer, but to be back up here as the top overall amateur at an event this size, 2,225 riders over the course of this weekend, what's this mean to you to grab this win in your class and the overall today?
It was definitely good coming back off summer break, and I never would have dreamed I'd have got it, because I've been working a lot, and I've just been racing on the weekends, and that's all I've really been doing. And the track was pretty beat up, so I was surprised I did as good as I did.
Well, surprised or not, you got the job done today, but I'm sure you didn't get it done by yourself. We'll give a chance to thank the people that helped you get here today.
Morgantown Power Sports, Maxxis, Moose Racing, HBD, Joey Steele, Anderson Excavating, Preston Contractors, 100% Goggles, G2, Steve Evans, Scott Cogger at Coastal, and my dad for helping me out with everything.
Well, American Cargo's got $125 in gas money for you to get you the next race where you can go after your next overall. I'm going to let you hold this. We're going to let Ken Hill get a photo. Go ahead and grab that for me. He's going to get a photo. Folks, one last round of applause for Anthony Stone, today's top amateur overall.
Well, there you have it, folks. That is a wrap. And the Parts Unlimited Unadilla GNCC comes to a close here today from the home of horsepower, the 11th running of the Parts Unlimited Unadilla GNCC as we set forth into a second decade of history here next year when we return. It's certainly going to be a lot of fun, and wonder how we're ever going to top it. You know, we asked the question last year, will we ever top what we did last year? Or this year? Well, we did it this year, and we're going to ask the same question. How are we going to do it next year? Well, we'll find out in about 12 months. But we'll be back to GNCC Racing on Saturday, October 3rd and Sunday, October 4th. So be sure and join us at 1 o'clock both days, Eastern Standard Time. On behalf of Johnny Gallagher, Megawatt, Matt Watson, I'm Rodney Tomlin.
Great day, everybody.
Hey, folks, I just want to give you a little heads up right there. As we're exiting the track this afternoon, if we've been drinking, think better of driving, that's for sure. If you've been drinking, find somebody to be that designated driver. There are going to be checkpoints going north and south, so thanks for cutting that off. But there are going to be checkpoints going north and south, so use your best judgment out there. If you've been drinking at all, have somebody else drive or leave the vehicle here. So thank you, have a safe ride home, and thanks a million for